Plus, let's begin this hour with accusations made by former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon.
In a book obtained by The Guardian, Bannon described the Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016 between the president's son and a group of Russians during the election campaign as treasonous. Referring to the Russia investigation, Bannon is also quoted saying that they're going to crack Don Jr. like an egg on national TV. The meeting he was referring to was revealed by the New York Times. It involved Donald Trump Jr. along with then campaign chairman Paul Manafort and a Russian lawyer in Trump Tower. Bannon is quoted in a new book called Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, reportedly based on more than 200 interviews with the president and his inner circle. It was written by Michael Wolff.
This was quite a day in Washington, talking there about President Trump and his former White House chief strategist, Steve Bannon. Close at one time. Today, the president issuing this statement. Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Steve was a staffer who worked for me after I had already won the nomination by defeating 17 candidates. Now that he's on his own, Steve is learning that winning isn't as easy as I make it look. Steve had very little to do with our historic victory, yet Steve had everything to do with the loss of a Senate seat in Alabama held for more than 30 years by Republicans. Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself. Steve pretends to be at war with the media, which he calls the opposition party, yet he spent his time at the White House leaking false information to the media to make himself seem far more important than he was. It is the only thing he does well. Steve was rarely in a one-on-one meeting with me and only pretends to have had influence to fool a few people with no access and no clue whom he helped write phony books.
You're listening to The Devil's Advocate, where we talk about news and current events. I'm your host, Brandon Condict.
And I'm also your host, Mitchell Hernandez. Our goal at The Devil's Advocate is to provoke thought by introducing viewpoints and information that isn't readily available in the mainstream media.
It's in truth a conversation where an independent liberal, like myself,
And an independent conservative like myself can share different viewpoints without the typical disdain for one another we see all too often in politics. So with that, let's get started.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions is ready to overturn an Obama-era policy that helped pave the way to legalize marijuana in the states.
Let's bring in CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Begays to start us off. Jeff, what does this mean for states like California, which just legalized recreational marijuana?
Well, that's a good question, and frankly, DOJ senior officials that we spoke with really couldn't clarify that. So there's still a lot of questions about this, but let me just set up what has happened now. The Department of Justice has just issued a one-page memo which essentially rescinds Obama-era legal guidance on the enforcement of marijuana laws, federal marijuana laws. And so what this new legal guidance does, and again, it's just one page, so there aren't a lot of details there, but what it does, according to senior DOJ officials, is gives prosecutors in districts more discretion in enforcing federal marijuana laws. Now, the question is, will that lead to more prosecutions in states that have legalized marijuana use? Well, senior DOJ officials couldn't really answer that question. They really don't know what this will mean, but one senior DOJ official did tell us that this is a return to the rule of law.
All right, and we are back after a long. I know I say it the same every.
I know. I just like to come in on you.
Long break, very long break.
Just about a month. No big deal.
Yeah. Well, unless you just got done listening to episode 36.
Yeah, it's like, what are you guys talking about?
I guess time's relative.
Or that re-release.
Right. So, lots happened. Happy 2018, everybody.
New year.
We got Frank with us today and friend of the show, Dan.
2000 collaborating.
There it is.
And that's why we have him on the show, people.
We've got lots of stories. I'm gonna have you pull your mic closer to you. There it is.
Is that good?
Yep. Better. I'm looking at the waves over
Some
here.
bars going on.
Good.
Oh, this is fun radio. So obviously a lot of stuff happened since we last did an episode. We apologize.
Yeah, people got sick.
And
then it was Christmas,
flu,
and
Then
then
a computer crapped out on us.
crashed,
Yep.
and yeah,
and then I went on vacation.
all kinds of douche. all kinds of
busy.
problems. So we've got a lot to cover from December, which we missed, but we're gonna go ahead and start out with the regular type stuff, the biggest stuff, the biggest stories of the last couple of weeks. Anyway, the last week. Firstly, we want to shout out to Joey B on Twitter for throwing some shade our way, and Mitch's way. That's why
it was correspondence. It wasn't shade.
Correspondence. No, it wasn't. It was actually a good conversation, and I appreciate those. So
yeah.
But we'll
get into what he said in a little bit, but
a little bit later. So let's start out with the biggest story of the week, which right now I think is Fire and Fury.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard, but Steve Bannon talks some shit.
Steve Bannon talks a lot of shit.
Yeah, remember that guy, right?
Talks a lot of shit. So I've got an article here from BBC, and I'm just gonna skim through it. But basically, it is.
I mean, most of it is just like the quotes, the juicy quotes from the book.
Some of the excerpts that came out. This released yesterday.
Tell-all book from, I guess,
Michael Wolff.
Yep.
So
who was embedded within the White House and claims to have given interviews to Trump and everyone else.
Yeah, 200 interviews of what he's claiming he's based the book on. And I know some people have come out and claim that they weren't on the record, and I think he's had a problem with that in the past, I've heard.
Yeah.
The author.
Well, kind of like Project Veritas, where they just kind of like, hey, man, is this a nothing burger? And, they call it an interview, and he's really just got a hidden camera chilling in his, you know.
So BBC says that journalist Michael Wolff's Fire and Fury inside the Trump White House also claims the president prefers to call his billionaire friends late at night. Some of this shit is going to be these goofy, like I've already skimmed through this a little bit, and some of these get into like
how many Cokes he's drinking.
Well, I mean, so one of them, apparently they claim in this that Trump likes to eat at McDonald's because he's afraid of being poisoned.
That's an awesome
no one.
Claim. I don't care if that's true.
Okay.
So no one knows he knows what the food is, and that no one knows he's going to come to McDonald's. So there's no chance of $5.50 an hour.
Let's see where
King
it
Joffrey,
says.
you're not going to poison. Get out of here.
Mr. Trump contends he never spoke to Wolff, dismissing the book as full of lies, misrepresentations, and sources that don't exist. But the author has stood by his account, insisting that he had access, and that he believes the president has no credibility. We know he had a little bit of access because, they admitted
that he was in the White House quite a bit.
There have been a couple of people in the book that have already come out and been like, no, I didn't say that, or not in that context, or something like that.
Yeah. But did he also say that he has
Steve Bannon,
recordings?
Steve Bannon's not saying that.
I have heard something about recordings.
Yeah,
the reason recordings are getting brought up is because what they were saying is like if you're interviewing people, whether you're a media outlet or whether you're an author or whatever, you're going to bring a tape recorder.
Yeah,
like
no one writes fast enough to keep up,
and then you can transcribe later.
Yeah.
So,
and the fact that everyone has a tape recorder on their phone, makes it super easy.
So we'll see what comes of it, but let's go through some of the things.
Claims.
So they rushed the release of the book. Did you guys see that too?
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to come out until Tuesday. And then Trump slapped a cease and desist order on the publisher and Bannon, and then they rushed released it at midnight.
Right? Yeah. No, I knew that they did that. I know it became within like a couple hours became the number one book on the New York Times.
I started reading it. I'm through the first couple chapters.
First thing about the internet is anytime a celebrity has a picture that doesn't look good or they don't want someone to see it, immediately everyone's going to see it.
It's the Streisand effect. Is what they call it. Yeah. When you try to silence something, you make it a bigger deal.
So much bigger. You exploded it. It probably would have never been seen besides.
That is actually what it's called. I'm not making a joke. It's called the Streisand effect.
But only political dudes would probably have read this book if it wasn't for him freaking out and then pushing it to the top.
The book has the worst. Have you seen the cover of it? The worst cover of all time.
No, I've heard some people say
I'm pretty sure I can make it in
Donald Trump
paint in 2 seconds.
Donald Trump being one to freak out and push things to a place where they don't need to go on a regular basis. This one to me kind of makes. Look, when we get into the claims here, that it makes sense why if they weren't true, why you would be mad about them. It also
Well,
makes
it's
a
the
lot of
piss
sense
party.
if they are true, why you would be mad about
I'm
it.
sure it's going to be Piss Party 2.0, where it's just like, he's peeing on hookers.
Well, here, let's
Well, I mean,
start
there's some pretty damning claims that he never wanted to win the presidency. He didn't think he could.
claims,
Which we've heard before. We
and
heard
those-
that before the election even happened. We were hearing that he wanted to start his own network, and that this is a
And
conspiracy.
he probably didn't think he was going to win, and maybe...
Yeah, and then
you know,
Ivanka didn't
there's that
want him to
moment.
win. Ivanka? Is his
the
wife?
the
Yes.
article, like some of the
Ivanka's his daughter.
Melania, sorry.
I think some of the
I mixed
claims,
the names
I
a little.
agree with you to an extent that this has the potential to be Piss Party 2.0.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. People already...
But
believe
I
it.
think there's going to be a lot of, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff to actually take an interest in. Like, that is a little bit more interesting than Trump doesn't know what the KKK believes in anymore.
Right.
After protests in Charlottesville turned deadly in August, Mr. Trump
That's President Trump.
controversially condemned hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. He quickly came under attack for not explicitly condemning avowed racists. Blah 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 blah. You remember?
Yep.
Privately, he kept trying. This is what the book claims. This is an excerpt here. Privately, he kept trying to rationalize why someone would be a member of the KKK. That is, they might not actually believe what the KKK believed, and the KKK probably does not believe what it used to believe. And anyway, who really knows what the KKK believes now? In fact, he said, his own father was accused of being involved with the KKK. Not true. And then in parentheses, it says, in fact, yes, true. Page 294. So, to me, that doesn't, that's... Okay, that's a bomb, right? But it's not. It doesn't affect politics. It
I
doesn't.
mean,
No.
it's no juicier than
It's
any
gossip.
other gossip that we're getting weekly. You know,
Well, it's like
about
when
it,
we
you
saw
know.
the Podesta emails. It was like, Podesta really thinks Hillary Clinton's overbearing and was talking shit on her. It's probably true, but
Yeah,
who cares?
yeah. It
You know?
doesn't.
It says the book claims that the kids, Jared and Ivanka, exhibited increasingly panicked sense that the FBI and DOJ were moving beyond the Russian election interference and into family finances.
That'd worry me too, man. I'm just saying.
Mr. Kushner reportedly pushed for Mr. Comey's removal, which Trump allegedly handled without his top aides. The president appeared to want people to believe that he had, in an act of strength, taken down the FBI director for personal reasons. The president, in order to avoid embracing the conventional process, merely eliminated everybody else from his process. This is what the book claims. For most of the day, almost no one would know that he had decided to take matters into his own hands, and the presidential annals firing the FBI director, James Comey, may be the most consequential move ever made by a modern president acting entirely on his own. That's the author, you know? So,
There are a lot
To me,
of these.
when it comes to Comey and that thing, just read Hillary's book. There's a lot of reasons why Comey wasn't good. She
Yeah.
rails on him for 3 hours straight on all the mistakes he made.
In the part of the book I've read, they explicitly state that that was what Trump. When that happened, it almost terrified Trump because it was the thing that they kind of precipitated him getting elected. It happened right after the Billy Bush tape. It happened 11 days before the election, so it was like his saving grace.
It was. I mean, there's no way else to look at it.
Yeah.
You know.
it says the book set claims that
Comey is playing 4D chess. I'm sorry to interrupt. He was
He's just a
calling the
dingus.
bluff.
maybe so.
Yeah.
I proposed that a year ago.
Yeah.
That
I think you did,
dude,
yes.
because
He's
like
just got
the
everyone
thought,
hating him.
well, and the thought there with Comey is when you have somebody like Comey who has such a availability to really pull some strings and do some, at least make you sweat a little bit. You don't make an enemy with that guy. And again, we talked about it, Frank, during the week that Trump had thought that firing Comey would be, such a
Universally
accepted idea, and it probably would have been if he would have done it on day one instead of sending Sean Spicer out to lie to us about what we saw with our eyes.
Right.
If he would have fired him then, I think it would have been, because at that point too, Democrats didn't like James Comey, so.
Right. And they had no reason to, but it was that statement he said where it was something like, I had to fire him and his whole thing with the Russia thing, and then that's when they were like, no, he did it because of that. And that's how it blew up.
It's his offhanded Twitter remarks that get him into trouble.
It just does. You got to think that shit through.
Because as the president, everything you say is they're debating that now. I've seen so many debates about like this North Korea thing, which we'll get into later. Like, does that represent the White House or just him personally? And it kind of gets intertwined when you're the president.
Yeah.
Yeah. The book also claims that women, according to Trump, were simply more loyal and trustworthy than men. Men might be more forceful and competent, but they were... Yeah, a little bit. But they were also more likely to have their own agendas. Women, by their nature, or Trump's version of their nature, were more likely to focus on their purpose.
Focus their purpose on a man.
Focus their purpose on a man.
I read that quote.
A man like Trump.
I disagree that women like to focus their...
Bring your attention to me.
I don't know. This book actually...
It sounds like it's just like a...
It sounds like fodder.
I hadn't heard any of the claims other than Bannon's going into this, but now I kept seeing stuff saying like this is tabloid, and now
it's
I'm
very
kinda
tabloid.
It kind of sounds like it a little. Yeah. I mean, at least the way that it's written. Like, I'll give you that. There's a claim that Bannon tried to banish McMaster to Afghanistan.
Okay.
While at the White House, Bannon allegedly grew increasingly frustrated by National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. His views on the 16-year war in Afghanistan. According to Wolf, Bannon saw the general as too closely aligned with liberals and establishment Republicans and threatened to send him away. McMaster wants to send more troops to Afghanistan, so we're going to send him, said triumphal Bannon. In Bannon's scenario, Trump would give McMaster a 4th star and promote him to top military commander in Afghanistan.
I mean, shit, there's worse punishments out there. So, again, I don't really care. You know? I don't.
No, do you think that that Trump's cease and desist was a good idea, though?
No, it was a terrible idea.
That's what I think, yeah. Like, you just don't give it time of day, and then it goes... It's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away.
Democrats are jumping on everything.
But it's so easy to bait Trump.
Yeah.
It's like he has to respond to everything.
And I get it. If it's not true, you're like, what the fuck? But at the same time, it's like as soon as you say, don't read this.
Yeah, but you should have thicker skin if you've been... How long has he been famous? Since the 80s?
Yeah.
Like, and he's been pretty much criticized since he's been around. He's always been this flamboyant, like, larger-than-life personality.
I love, too, that, like, this book has now re-brought up the discussion about his, like, mental... fitness.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, happening right
which
as
is ridiculous.
What happens right over the North Korea? My button's bigger than yours.
And we'll get into that later. But I think there's a good reason to call his mental.
If you're going
capacity,
to, that would be the reason to use.
Yeah.
I still don't think that he's crazy or anything. But again, if you're gonna do it,
I mean, crazy is a relative term. I think most. I think most mega rich people are a little out there.
Anyone who wants to run for president's got to have a couple screws.
Yeah,
anybody
exactly.
that runs,
People
anybody
who
that
are
runs for
genuinely
any
good
high
at the
up
job are too humble to ever think they'd be good at the job.
Actually, do it.
Yeah.
Any other good?
The next one is my favorite fact.
I thought we talked about that before.
Is this
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we talked
facts,
about it
or
on
what
the
is
air.
Yeah.
This is, Trump declined to nominate John Bolton because of his mustache. And the picture coming in is great because it is a walrus
quote is the
mustache.
best.
Oh shit!
The quote is the best. Bolton's mustache is a problem, snorted Bannon. Trump doesn't think he looks the part. You know, Bolton is an acquired taste. What?
He does have a Wilford Brimley, I sell diabetes stuff.
Diabetes. Who did I hit? Yeah, Trump. You already said the poisoned.
Yeah,
McDonald's.
Yeah,
right?
that's a fact that I've heard before. Or well, I mean, it's been focused on a lot. That he eats fast food a lot. He has a very.
So did they say anything that's like actually bad?
No, it's very tabloid-esque. It's just, the infighting.
It is
so what's
very...
Which we already knew about because of the firings.
Yeah, I keep saying it's going to bring Trump down. It's going to finish
the only
him.
thing really I've seen it does is it focuses a lot on Bannon, and it seems to be about Bannon turning on Trump.
Here's
Okay.
what
we knew they had a falling out anyway.
Well, that's actually where the book ends. The book, it was supposed to chronicle the first 100 days, he says in the beginning, but it ended up focusing on the first 200 because there was no natural break in the chaos until John Kelly got elected and fired Bannon.
Yeah.
That's where the book ends.
See,
Gotcha.
and to me, all that makes sense because I do believe that John Kelly was put there to clean house, and I do think he was successful.
He did,
yeah.
doing
He swept
to
that
some
porch
extent.
clean.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a Scaramucci type character in a while.
Mooch.
Mooch apparently he's
coming
making a
back.
comeback too. I was reading about all the books that are coming out. I know Spicer's writing one called The Briefing.
Yeah.
But
I think Scaramucci has one coming, if I'm
I-
not mistaken.
I think.
I mean, that's
I
why
think
you
you're
joined
right.
Donald Trump's
But here's the thing,
administration in the
like,
first place.
This
Like, I can write a book
also
soon about.
plays like Kellyanne Conway never thought they would win. Didn't want them to win, and thought that she could leverage this into a position with like
Yeah.
Fox News or
Well,
something.
I'm sure
Bannon
she
did
could've.
make that claim too that that
Complicated stuff,
that
folks.
Melania was crying on
Election.
election
that
night.
could be Steve Bannon hyperbole, though. Instead of
Well,
just being like, "She's
especially
crying
apparently she
about
was
it."
very, and I believe this, she was very shocked when the nude photos leaked.
Yeah.
Which apparently the book does
It's not really
claim
leaked.
that
I mean, she posted
everyone.
the photos. It's not like they leaked.
The book is pretty tabloidy. It says that everyone attributed this to Trump except her, and I was like, that's like, how do you back up that claim? That,
Right.
like, Trump
Here's
leaked
the
his own
thing.
wife's photos.
It does sound very tabloidish. But I think the takeaway from here is that this guy obviously did have access, but
Yeah.
and he had access through Bannon.
The
If
dysfunction's
it-
probably true. I
if
mean, we
it-
saw this
yeah.
happening for the past
And we've
200
been
days.
we've been hearing this
year now.
since the beginning since they took office, since Sean
Yeah.
Spicer walked out
The
and
shit
they
was
addressed
crazy,
us.
and
yeah,
we all
yeah.
knew this was going on. This is just kind of behind the scenes now.
So I'm not really surprised by any of this stuff. Like it's
I'm surprised at what
To-
went down with Steve Bannon, though.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm almost
Wasn't
wondering
expecting
because
that.
it seems like he was mostly like he interviewed a lot of people, but it seemed like 95% of the time he was in Bannon's office at Bannon's request, according to like.
He also
That's why Trump keeps saying that he was Bannon's lackey. that he
Yeah,
was
and I'm
getting
wondering now
brought
if
in.
this was not Bannon's play. Like, if I get
Yeah.
worked out, I'm gonna have this
I'm gonna do
this
this. Well,
expose coming out.
It ain't working for him because his
I don't know.
own base is
I
turned
almost
against
disagree
him.
with you because I think I was telling Brandon this. I think the only person who loses from this is Trump getting into a
Like,
fight with
here-
Bannon.
Oh, no, I
here's
think-
Bannon
I
can
think
only
he
get more
steamrolled him.
clicks.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
find.
No,
here's what I'm gonna find a healthy medium in between both of you. I think that I agree with Frank's point that but I agree with you too. I think it can be personally damaging for Bannon, and I think it will be in the short term. I think that Trump, though, is the one who stands to lose the most from this because Trump's position is more important than Bannon's position.
Yeah.
So if Bannon loses his job at Breitbart or ends up on some fucking podcast or ends up on our podcast in a year, come on, Steve. Like, you're,
Can I drink?
you're
Okay.
welcome to come
Going
conversate.
on.
I have some questions to ask you about Jeff Sessions.
I will refer to you as Matt Grading the whole time you're here.
So, but
He's already taken a personal toll. I mean, his
has.
backer has left him.
But
The-
here's the thing. Here's where I think
Have
it
you
does.
checked the comments on Breitbart?
I think it
Yeah,
matters.
tossing that dude under the bus.
That's fine.
Really?
Yeah,
But the
big
fact
time.
that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, now we have, and again, like the 30% or whoever, like of Trump base that's not going to leave, they're not going to probably sway from this either.
Right.
But we do now have Steve Bannon. I think when he calls the meeting treasonous at Trump Tower, I think
That's his
the way
hyperbole.
I kind of think that the way I interpret that is that's his opinion. I don't
Yeah.
think that he's calling that by like, hey, here's a statute that proves this is
Right.
treasonous.
He's
I
a
think
theatrical type
Right.
of guy where he exaggerates things.
He's a
That's-
bomb lobber.
Yeah, that's part of his
what he
oratory
does.
when he,
Like
he writes that
grandstanding
shit.
kind of
Yeah.
speech patterns.
He's like a more evil Michael Moore. I'm like, I don't
More
know.
evil. I don't know about
More
that
evil.
one. Where's your tabloid source for that?
He has to be more evil. He endorsed Roy Moore. Like, come on. You don't get that way by not being like ultimate
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. But I do think it shows. I think it obviously shows the fracturing, or not. There's a clear divide within the administration, and that's not a surprise. Half of those motherfuckers are fired now.
Yeah.
So like,
It just is. Obviously, the ship has been at least a little bit.
But here's an
on course.
interesting excerpt from the book. I don't actually have it in front of me, so I'm going to paraphrase it because for some reason this one didn't make the list. But it was the only one that was on all of the news channels. But something about like Trump's going to go down for money laundering without
Which
a
is
doubt. He said, period.
That's an incredible claim to make.
It is, but I wanna know why he made it.
Yeah, money laundering is hard to prove. Like, you have to prove that someone is taking dirty money and inserting it into a legitimate company, and you have to be able to prove that whatever it made it look like for hotel.
Right.
Let's say you did it just hotels, and he was pretending that guests were checking in, but really it was just dirty money.
Right.
you have to prove those dudes don't exist. So unless you can do that,
I don't
and
know.
that's
They get
one
a lot of
scenario.
people
I don't
on
know what
money
else.
laundering,
Yeah,
though.
it
Like,
could be
it's-
the steaks. It could be the vodka. He's got a lot of.
I think it would be
endeavors.
really easy to prove those people don't exist, though, as every hotel has
Yeah.
cameras.
But I also think that it's,
Well,
it's kind of damning. Like, he still
That's
hasn't-
easy.
Right.
He still doesn't release his taxes, so we still don't really know.
No,
I mean, he did release that one cheat of his taxes,
Right.
Which from 2005.
like or
Yeah.
6 or whatever it was. Like,
I think it's 5. It was over a decade.
if
ago.
anybody's thinking that he wasn't the leaker, like,
Oh, yeah, he definitely was
he
the
was
leaker.
the leaker,
yeah.
or maybe Steve Bannon was. That's his.
It only
I
helps
mean,
him.
Trump is claiming Bannon was the leaker and lost his mind.
Well, let's be honest though. As soon as Bannon left, there were no more
Well,
leaks.
okay. Now, once Bannon left, he at that point he fired like 12 people.
Yeah.
So I think like there's a good chance that all of them combined were the
Yeah,
leaker.
we're the ones. That's
and
probably why he
Bannon
fired all 12 of
Bannon
them.
also
Yeah.
left like at the same time that Previous left. At the same time, like they
Yeah.
were all. There was a period of time there.
Yeah.
It was 200 days, and he had fired all those people. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
very short amount of time.
People were
in
in
a
and out
presidency.
of the administration. By May, there was nobody
Yeah.
left.
Besides-
I can't believe Rick Perry survived this long. Like, what the fuck? How
he
did
just,
that
he
guy?
hangs back. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna shut everything down," and that's all he has to
I
do.
want you to build me a small doghouse. Oh, bad lip reading. That they did the best job with Rick Perry, the greatest. Save a pretzel for the gas jets. All right, so let's move into another big story this week before we kind of throw back to December a little bit.
Yeah.
Jeff Sessions.
Don't smoke a weed.
What the fuck, man? So
What a
who's
cunt.
got that story?
I'm opening it right now.
Jeff
Yeah,
Sessions.
Jeff Sessions can go away.
Jeff
Like,
I'm so conflicted. Like I don't want him. I don't want somebody in his position that can fuck the Russia
the
investigation.
Russia does think that, in my opinion, doesn't matter. I'd much rather get the guy out of there who's fucking everything
okay,
up.
I do have the
It
article.
actually
All
is
right.
being.
I'll let
gonna
you.
affect me.
I'll let you go
Okay.
through it.
So on Thursday, when Jeff Sessions announced that he had removed the barrier that had held back federal prosecutors from pursuing marijuana cases in states that had made pot legal, he delivered on something he had all but promised when he was nominated as Attorney General. He claims most marijuana world saw it coming anyway, but freaked out. So they're repealing a thing called the Cole Memo, an Obama-era protection for states that have legalized marijuana. And then it goes on to state how much it's affect the stock market. Kind of freaked out on the pot industry's dropped 5%. And then it notes that it's a $7.9 billion industry.
Pretty big.
Yeah. And then I know there was a lot of blowback, especially from Colorado, because they've reaped the majority of the benefits.
And
Yeah.
in
Their state
California,
officials
'cause
aren't going to do
Which
it.
just
legalized it.
California, I think
like
it'd be a
2
bigger
days
deal.
before.
Yeah, because it basically just tells the
I
state.
think California's
Well,
a bigger
yeah,
deal.
and what-
Honestly, I think California, in this, as far as what Jeff Sessions did and the DOJ did, I think that California has more of an effect than Colorado does. Colorado already has the businesses, so there's that.
Well, California is
but
it 'cause-
California's fucking huge.
Yeah.
And the amount of business they stand to lose
Yeah,
if
California
the
is-
feds come in and start shutting shit down.
And they're not doing great now. Like they just what do they do? They way underestimated social programs, so it ended up being way more money than they thought it was going to be, and they completely overestimated revenues. So he just revised it. What's the guy's name? Brown, Governor Brown.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah, he had to come back and They had to cut off. I think it was like 500,000 people from some benefit, and then he had to put out a budget saying it's going to actually be a deficit this year. So they need revenue.
Yeah.
They're having a housing crisis as
This
well.
is a great way to create it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that this does, if anything, it makes a lot of money for the
Yeah.
states that enact it.
California needs it.
And-
Colorado's
well,
obviously been doing it for a while.
It's also hypocritical of people. I mean, Trump kind of ran on the claim that states' rights they were going to let states choose.
That's Republicans'
Small,
whole issue.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that
What?
this is a Republican
states'
issue.
states' rights, and this is very
'cause
much these are
I've
states
seen-
deciding.
I've seen a lot of Republicans pissed off about this.
yeah,
Like,
because again,
Well,
that's
yeah, but
part
especially
of being
if you
a
believe
Republican.
in a free market. This is the
the
ultimate free
Republic.
market. You're not, giving money to drug dealers. You're giving money to businesses. your growing economies. Look, Colorado has a boom. You can't find a house there, and the prices for them have boomed.
Right.
Gone
I just
up.
went to
You can't find a house because
I was just in
stoned.
Colorado. A couple
Like, man, where did my house go?
Where'd it
dude?
go, man?
No, but it
I'm
is
in this
it is
guy's
packed.
house.
Like even
So
in the
high.
surrounding cities, like everything is bustling there, way more so than here.
I just think that, and I think the reasoning behind it is bad. Because it's
evil.
no,
But it doesn't
well, and that's
actually
what it is.
direct
It's
anybody
like-
to arrest.
Yeah.
It just gives them the option now.
What
to
did
do
Weed
it.
ever do to Jeff Sessions? Because he seems to have a
He
big
hates it.
personal
Well, I
hatred.
think it might be a generational gap because they're like the war
It's
on drugs
absolute-
mentality
yeah.
for older people is just
Even
ingrained
those
in them.
guys, those guys are more apt to be like, well, there is a lot of evidence saying
think
it's
the-
not a big
I
deal.
think
He
the
seems to
big-
be like personally offended by the concept of
well,
weed.
and he came out.
Some stoners kicked his ass one day.
yeah,
He never let it go.
Slow
He's
mo.
like, I will get you all.
He watched Dazed and Confused. Like people had fun in the '70s. Oh, I hate them.
I wasn't allowed to be a hippie. My dad sent me to reform school.
Right.
But, I mean, like realistically, this isn't going to stop anything. $7.9 billion. They're not going to
No,
care.
they're
They're going to continue to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
and they would be stupid to try to enforce this, to try to go back to the way that it was.
Well, you're going to get states fighting the federal government.
All you're going to do
Totally bad.
is you're going to amp up the amount of people that do want it legal, and they're going to vote in people that run on that.
Well, I know.
That's
They're
actually
going
going to
to-
change it.
That's what
so,
they've
like, this
done
might
now.
be this
They're-
may be the best thing.
That's why people
for
are
weed.
pointing out that there's now a call from both sides, Republicans, Democrats, for
Thank
Congress to make a federal law to put it on a national ballot.
Yeah,
because that'll just settle it once and for all. Because it's stupid that it's illegal on a federal level and then legal on a state level. There's too many.
Well, I saw that argument on Facebook where the guy was like, well, it's against the law, and if we don't enforce all our laws, we shouldn't even have them. I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I'm going to hear all day.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a big difference between laws that are just and then laws
Right.
that are just kind of man-made.
pretty sure it was
and,
Thomas Jefferson that said, an unjust law is no law at all.
I'm pretty
And
sure you
yeah.
can't like
This
eat an
country
ice
was
cream
founded
cone
by
on
breaking the
Tuesday in
law.
Right. It's
Oklahoma
like,
in
fuck
the
that
rain.
text.
Like, isn't that a law?
Right.
So I don't know.
Speed limit's a law, but I never observe
Fuck
it.
that
so-
law.
I think the big issue that you should rightly have with Jeff Sessions' handling of it is it's one thing
don't
if
smoke a weed.
It's one thing if Jeff Sessions comes out and goes, look guys, this is why I think that weed is a problem. There are health risks. There are I don't buy into the whole car accident thing, and I'll get into that in a second because that's
I
what
do.
I keep seeing that a lot. But let me just in a second. But like if he came out and he cited that like car accidents and
I can't imagine
hey,
they
we
wouldn't
shouldn't.
be up.
I mean, there are more
can't.
children have been taken to the hospital in
Right.
Colorado with accidentally ingesting
Okay,
edibles.
so if
there is a point
if he
there
says that, and then he's like, "So this is something to be taken seriously," I'm good with that. That's fine. When you come out and you say falsely that this is going to lead to something that you're assuming it's going to lead to, and when you come out and say that he said, "quote." No good person smokes marijuana. Like
I know.
you're automatically
Look at
wrong.
Snoop Dogg.
Willie Nelson smokes marijuana. He is a national treasure.
It's like you, right? Yeah, that was probably the dumbest thing he could have said. It was just like, dude,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Like, there's tons of people.
And that was
smoke.
the thing that soured me first, because he's been a very staunch
Telling you,
anti-marijuana
some more
person.
way
So the
to
moment
confront
they
the youth.
made him attorney general, I was like, well, this is gonna come.
Marijuana personally came in and kicked his ass, and he was just like, no.
And, well, it's going to. Like,
Here's why I don't like the car accident thing though, because it's nice and it sounds cute and neat to
What about cute and neat?
to cite that like, oh well, people like in car accidents this percent of people had THC in their system. That's cool. That doesn't mean they were high when they were driving.
they're actually California is leading the. I guess research right now trying to come up with a
Behind the actual,
breathalyzer
that
that can
works
detect
for-
if you're high at the
I'm
moment.
fine for that, but all of the problems with weed, to me, all of the arguments, all of the anti-weed arguments could easily be solved with regulation. Like I've heard some very fair arguments.
Well, I hate that word.
where-
Well, I'm pretty sure they went through this exact same thing when Prohibition ended and cars were a big thing, and they're like, all
It's
right,
like if
drinking
you
and driving laws are going to
look
start
at-
being enforced.
well, and yeah,
we're
that's
going to come up with a breathalyzer test.
Right.
one of the biggest arguments, right? Like you can't drink and drive, alcohol is legal. You
Yeah.
can't smoke and drive, penalties for both. Done and
And I
done.
think-
that was easy.
And just like
Right.
bars, they're talking now about having recreational open. Like I think that's the reason a lot of people smoke in their cars, because if you go to Colorado to buy weed and you don't have a house, teenagers are just going to smoke in their cars and drive
Right.
around.
Right.
So if they had a lounge, at least they would be there.
Yeah, they could just go
Right.
there and do it, and then have it
and
wear
then
off.
Uber
and
around.
keep
Yeah,
going.
you know?
Uber around.
and then the kids do
I'm
maybe
high as
Lyft. Maybe they Lyft now. I
Where's
don't
the
know.
Uber?
The kids Uber or Lyft.
That's all I use. I might go anywhere. I'm just like, all right, Uber everywhere.
I drive myself. I work for my money.
That's right.
I Uber myself. That sounds like a rap lyric.
Maybe.
So I guess the bottom line of that story is don't
It's
smoke
better
weed.
than Eminem's whole new album.
Yeah. You were going to do a segment on that?
No. No more
Ironically
Eminem
called
segments.
Revival, and I think
Right.
it's the death of his career.
Revival.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand the whole. I think, but to the regulation point, I think that, like, I heard a guy on conservative talk radio the other day who sounded like one of the characters from Parks and Rec, the goody two shoes guys who are all like, abstain from sex even in your 90s, but he was on, and he was saying that, like, you know, problems with marketing weed is like, we've got they make gummies and they make brownies and they make whatever suckers, and those are geared
Right.
to kids, and they put Sesame Street characters on the packaging, and like, all right, if you want somebody who is pro weed legalization to come to the middle and meet you somewhere, fine. Outlaw edibles. That's cool.
It's
like,
okay. It's like Jello shots and alcohol. You can make them at home.
I
It's
agree,
not difficult.
I agree in the same way that Joe Camel doesn't exist anymore, that you shouldn't
guy
probably
was
have
cool.
Elmo on your
Yeah,
package
and I
of
believe
marijuana.
they do it now. I believe where edibles are, they have to be stamped with the. They have a symbol that's like a red exclamation point that says
Yeah.
THC. In like a very red, like looks like a
Yeah.
don't eat this, but a kid doesn't know.
Right.
But it's
still
all
not
that's
gonna-
ultimately up to the parents. Same thing with alcohol.
Right.
You can have alcohol in your house. If your kid gets a hold of it, that's on you.
Right. You gotta lock that shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you know, but again, I agree to the point where it's like, well, should I put Cookie Monster on the bottle of Jaeger? Probably not, because that's going to attract
Yeah.
small children.
But I mean, can you regulate the name of beer? Like, if you named your beer like peppermint, like bark,
I don't think,
think
the
so.
name.
you
I don't
can
think the
name like Girl
matters.
Scout cookie as a type of marijuana, and like
Yeah.
that really isn't like. But then
Yeah.
didn't they don't allow cigarettes to be like chocolate,
Right.
Or whatever.
They
Like there
don't-
are certain laws
Yeah.
like that, so I can
Right.
see it being a standard.
And they don't allow.
I don't care what it's called, man. I just don't.
Do you remember back?
Like-
Do you remember back when we were in? This is probably like 8 to 10 years ago now. Back when we were like just out of high school and whatever. Camel had like those tins that they sold for like $6 a pack.
It was the
or
4
whatever.
flavors, robust.
They had those, but they also
Frost.
had like chocolate and strawberry
Oh,
and
fuck.
cherry. And right around the time where they put
Smoked
the
royals.
fire safe chemical in cigarettes, like they outlawed that. They outlawed all of the packaging for those other ones because they were too bright and too colorful, and they were like,
They're not
"That's-
allowed to use the word light anymore. Now they're just colored. They're like red. They're not. You can't.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
That's
You can't get like Marlboro lights anymore, but you can get Marlboro. What I don't know,
Something
white or
else,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I don't
Yeah,
didn't know
because
that.
I don't get
it doesn't actually it's not any healthier for you. So they argue that it's misleading people into
Yeah.
thinking they're making a healthier choice.
You can't say
But
diet soda.
But and that's
Yeah, it's
another
true.
thing too that I've seen a lot
That don't work.
online since Jeff Sessions came out was this argument that like the anti-weed people, there's just like I imagine it will die off. This idea,
Anti-weed people, you imagine they'll die off?
not all of the anti-weed people, but because I think there are reasons to be anti-weed. Like
There's
I
reasons
think
to be any anti-drug.
Right.
Yeah. You need to
So-
regulate that shit.
But I think that the people that are like, weed is evil and it's like the worst chemical, and they're like, I see these stories where I'm like, that person didn't smoke weed. Like,
Right.
there's no way that happened to a person smoking weed. Like,
He might have smoked weed and then gone out and, I don't know, something horrible
Right.
happened to him, like a
He was
piano
like-
fell on his head, and they're like,
I
oh my
saw
God.
a crazy story from some lady, which this was probably like, I heard somebody tell me that their nephew, like,
Shut up, Susan. You don't fucking know what you're talking
it
about.
was like he had a tea laced with marijuana leaves, and he went out and stabbed 4 people. I was like, is this reefer fucking madness right here?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't real.
Right,
It's not
nobody
what
does
happened.
that unless you're already effed in the head and you're like, I think I'll stab some people today,
Yeah.
but let me get high first.
But I think that
not a
that
consequence.
idea that
I believe that of
Jeff
LSD
Sessions-
maybe, or
Yeah.
like
Where you
weed's
go
not that much
crazy and you're out of your
hallucin-
mind.
I think that
It's a hallucinogen, but not in the
Yeah.
same
Weed, you're just
terms.
stoned.
I
Yeah.
It's like, whatever.
think that Jeff Sessions type of mentality that like this is just an evil thing. It's bad because we've always been told it's bad and it's
Right.
evil. It's the worst thing ever. Like I think that will eventually go away.
Well,
And
and
is.
as of that point, Politico pointed out that they could not find a single member of Congress who had issued a statement in support of Jeff Sessions. So he's alone. Like, it's just not gonna it's 60% of
the
of
problem
American
with
get it,
data
because-
that
though,
is
is that
illegal.
they don't have the balls to introduce the legislation.
Well, maybe they
themselves.
will now, and let's be honest,
They've been
it
calling
is
for it now.
it is for them to fix because Jeff Sessions is
Absolutely.
supposed to enforce the law. It is
Yeah.
against the law. If they don't like it, they can make the fucking law.
Yeah.
They should probably do that.
They've been calling for it, and they probably really should. That we should
Yeah.
have a national referendum on it.
Right.
just to
So
get it.
just fuck this guy,
Yeah.
and then don't let him do his shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ridiculous that something that's illegal in one state is legal in the next, and that you get in trouble for simply taking something across an imaginary line.
Right.
Right.
Again, I'm fine with that because of states' rights. I get it. However, in this particular case, it's like just make the. I don't know why there's a federal ban on this
Yeah.
anyway.
I think
get
we
rid of
should figure it out. Like, we should legally put it up for a for a vote, and then
Right.
every state should have be allowed to kind of regulate it
Yeah.
between themselves. Kind of like how cigarette taxes differ between
It's
states.
yeah, because they use it for different things.
See, that's what we do at TDAP. We fucking solve
problems.
We can now call the race in Alabama. Fox News is now projecting that Doug Jones will defeat Republican Roy Moore to become the first Alabama Democrat in a quarter century to be elected to the United States Senate.
This is a dramatic Democratic upset in deep red Alabama, and it cuts the GOP Senate majority from 52 to 51, further dimming Republican hopes of enacting major legislation backed by President Trump. But as we pointed out, it's likely that tax reform is going to be voted on in the conference committee prior to the seating of the Senate.
Next tonight, President Trump in Mar-a-Lago, hours after celebrating his first major legislative victory. The president today signing that tax cut bill into law, surrounded by cameras in the Oval Office. President Trump already looking at the next item on his agenda in the new year. Here's ABC's David Wright.
So this is the bill right here, and we're very proud of it.
This may be the most sweeping overhaul of the tax code in a generation.
That's your bill.
But today's signing ceremony was a rush job.
We did a rush job today. It's not fancy, but it's the Oval Office. It's the great Oval Office.
The president, like someone who can't wait to open his Christmas present.
I was going to wait for a formal signing sometime in early January, but then I watched the news this morning, and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now.
Traditionally, the bill's strongest champions on Capitol Hill would get the pens used to sign it as a keepsake. Not today. Congressional leaders weren't even there.
So here you go, folks. You want the box with it or not, huh?
So the president handed out the ceremonial pens like stocking stuffers. He calls the tax cuts a Christmas present to the middle class. And most Americans will see their taxes go down, but only temporarily. The biggest cuts will benefit corporations, and those cuts are permanent. President Trump's real estate empire certainly stands to gain. But how much? Hard to tell.
Mr. President, are the American people ever going to see your tax return?
Because the president still refuses to disclose what he pays.
David Wright joins us now live. David, you were there at the White House today. This new tax plan, by far the president's biggest legislative achievement and one of the biggest days of his presidency. And he mentioned today there in the Oval Office he hopes to carry this momentum into next year with a plan for infrastructure.
That's right, Tom, and he hopes to approach that issue with the help of the Democrats, something that they didn't manage to do on tax reform. But the Democrats have priorities of their own, and both parties are going to be looking ahead to the midterm.
All right, speaking of dumb motherfuckers in Alabama, Roy Moore happened in December, or didn't happen in December. So, the obvious question burning in the back of everybody's brain holes
all throughout Christmas break.
Christmas break, especially with the Facebook teaser. Like, does Brandon owe Alabama an apology? Well, yes, I do. I'm sorry, Alabama, that you decided to pick a pedophile as your candidate. I'm sorry that grown-ups had to walk in the room and steal that back. It does aggravate me a little bit, though, that I saw the big headline that night was that decency won in Alabama, but only by 1.5%. So let's not pat back too hard.
Hey, a win's a win.
All right.
So, but that was
it is
Donald
Trump.
Yeah. It is a historic win.
Has it been like 2 or 3 decades since we've had a Democratic?
25 years.
Yeah, even so, I get a little weary of that word.
Yeah, I mean, 25 years isn't really that long in the political
in the
world.
sense that it had been 25 years.
It's cool if you're a Democrat.
I mean, the Republicans at least seemed to see it as some kind of like foreboding sign because McConnell blamed Bannon blamed McConnell.
Right. Well, they always do that.
Yeah. Bannon's been blaming everybody.
One
Clinton
thing that I think it kind of does speak to is that, I mean, it does, at least in some aspect, it speaks to the value of Donald Trump's endorsement.
Right.
Donald Trump lost twice in Alabama.
He did. I don't know how much that matters because even though he endorsed him, the dude was a pedophile. Like I don't know.
Well, that's why it was really bad
I
move
get
to
that.
endorse him. It wasn't going to help him.
At first, he didn't.
Here's
and then he finally came out.
Here's where I think the endorsement matters, and I think we've already seen it play out a little bit, just only on a minor scale. But I think where his endorsement not mattering twice, in the case of Luther Strange, who was Roy Moore's primary opponent, and then in the Doug Jones general election, is that I think Congress is where it matters, where that becomes a crucial thing.
Right.
Because if the president comes out and attaches his name to a candidate or to an idea or to a bill or to something, if the idea is that you're attaching yourself to it doesn't hold that much water, then in some of the riskier instances, there are going to be more people nervous to attach themselves to it. And I think where we've already seen that is the judges, the circuit judges that were appointed, and Republicans flamed them in front of Congress. And like I'll pull the clip, but this dude, I can't remember his name. I know you'll remember the story. It's from a few weeks ago, I think like early to mid-December, but they were questioning one of Trump's circuit judge appointees or whatever.
They rejected about 3 in a week, but the one that went viral was the one who could not answer a single question
about the law.
He had never taken a deposition. He had never like.
And I think that where you see where like Alabama plays into that is in those cases where now it's thought at least that Donald Trump's name doesn't hold that much weight, as much weight as it once did, then you're not going to see Republicans in Congress lobbing softballs to those guys anymore because we're not willing to be the reason that this guy gets through. If this guy goes and fucks up, like I don't want to be part of who put him there.
With him. So, and that's fine. Again, Alabama, and especially with Roy Moore, I think is a special situation where there was a lot of baggage already. So I don't think that, while I think Bannon fucked up, he had the same, like whenever the general election was going on, and I can't remember who it was, but that one lady who said there's a special place in hell for women who don't vote for women, and it totally backfired. Or not Roy Moore, but Steve Bannon said the same thing at a Roy Moore rally. He was like, there's a special place in hell for any Republican who doesn't vote for Republicans. And when you come at it that way, it's like, so you're basically saying that I'm going to hell if I don't vote for the pedophile.
Yeah,
that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah, and I know there are a lot of religious people who will, you saw with the church thing, they will turn on people when they
the wrong way.
What?
Roy Moore did you see him showing up on election day on horse?
Roy Moore had a history of rubbing people the wrong way.
Roy Moore was the caricature of what he thought Republicans wanted to see.
You know, was he the one that waved a gun around?
He did. Yeah. First off, that was a baby
noisy
bitch
cricket.
gun.
He brought the noisy
That was a
cricket
Darren
out on
Darren.
stage with him.
But then he also
Look where I'm packing, fellers. It's like
he showed up on a horse, and like he clearly did not know how to ride a horse. You could tell. Like
the horse was nervous too. Like, dude, I don't know. I've heard some things.
He had a cowboy hat on. I'm pretty sure he does.
Make the horse nervous. He'll kick.
Yeah. God.
Yeah, that's what he said on all of his dates.
Now you owe people.
Was it too soon?
It was too soon.
Sorry.
But with Doug Jones, though, we come to a 51 majority, so they're barely holding on to.
Although to be
Tina Smith.
If I was
Frank
Democrats, I wouldn't
Doug
be
Jones.
jumping for joy for Doug Jones because he said, "I'm going to work with the Republicans."
Yeah,
I'm going.
And
to
if he wants to
how
get reelected,
far.
he'll probably have to.
He has to.
I would
Alabama's
think-
a Republican state.
I would think that would be the truth. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't go there, cut a deal, figure out, hey, I could do this for the next couple of years, and then go on a book tour. And
Well, Republicans could say, "Hey, if you want us to say, you've done a great job, and help you get reelected, come our way."
And some
You're
people
in a
find
Republican state.
some politicians find great success coming more toward the middle and being able to play
He's
both
gonna
sides.
have to if he wants to get.
If he wants to get realisted, but he could also use this as a bid to run for a higher office. That's
But
not
it's
connected
hard,
to where he lives.
but
Governor's the
I
only
still
thing
think
that,
he's-
governors want to be senators.
I
I
think,
there's
think
always,
even
you can always
if-
scale upwards in politics.
It depends. He's going to know the Alabama voters better than we do. But I think that Alabama's not going to stay blue.
I don't know if he
And-
does a good job. I think people will always vote for their interest and the better candidate, and I think that Doug Jones was the better candidate. Roy Moore stopped campaigning. He didn't even do anything for the last 6 days.
What were the things
you can't do that?
What were his positions on shit? Like
Nothing. I touched
Muslims
children.
can't serve.
Muslims can't serve. He had a bunch of ridiculous policies.
Everyone has to ride a horse from now on.
Right.
Was I the only one that was off topic? I was upset when I read Doug
16,
Jones
hit
was
me up
running
on
against Roy
Facebook.
Moore. I get excited because there's an actor named Doug Jones who portrays Abe Sapien in the movie Hellboy, and for half a second I thought he was running for political office.
Oh my god!
I was so disappointingly
incredible.
crushed when I realized there were two people with that name.
When I actually listened to what Doug Jones had to offer, I was like, I agree with everything he's saying. Like,
He's actually a pretty
I'm cool with him.
He's not a very controversial politician. He's,
no, I'm totally cool with him joining the
Well,
Senate.
that's just what they need.
Yeah.
I'm
made
curious how he'll actually vote now.
He ran the better campaign.
He did.
Like, he absolutely did. His whole campaign was unity, and both sides need to come together.
And he showed up, and he talked about his values, and and again, it helped that the guy he was running against was a pedophile.
It also helped that the guy that he was running against was like, hey, remember when we had slavery? That was a better time.
Right.
Like,
You're
that's
only-
a dumb
you're
thing
only
to
pulling
say.
in Paula Deen
when
with that one.
His wife, the racist Dixie Queen of the South, comes out and is like, you want to know how we're not anti-Semitic? Our lawyer's a Jew. Like, that's really kind of...
Yeah, newsflash, he wasn't a Jew.
I saw that all over the news today, and I was like, oh, it keeps getting. Well, he still has yet to concede, right? I believe, even after
they
the White
didn't-
House, I know the White House said recently he should.
The committee just already ruled against.
Oh yeah, they
were
already
like,
certified.
no,
Doug Jones got sworn in.
Yeah,
got
he
sworn in
never backed
yesterday,
down,
didn't he?
but
No, he never
didn't
backed
listen
down,
to him.
and he did all of the things.
He filed for a recount, and they didn't go with it.
He filed for the recount. He also filed a lawsuit the night before certification to stop the process. And he just made the generic fucking fear-mongering bullshit voter fraud. People were being bussed in.
Which is interesting on the same day that Trump's voter fraud commission shuts down because they found zero evidence of voter fraud.
Right.
He got sued by a member of the committee for
Right.
not giving them enough information.
Again, we all knew that. We
knew it wasn't going to
pan
come
out.
to anything.
Yeah.
We've seen studies of that for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about
Oh, you
this
did a whole
early
segment on it
last
earlier.
year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think we looked at a study that looked at all elections, local, state, and national,
Now, there was-
from like Jimmy Carter to present time, and there's in that 35 to 40 year span, there's 120 claims of voter fraud that were actually were investigated because they looked like they could be, and of those, 8
I
were
think it
proven
was
to be,
8. The rest of them were people with the same name or was voter error.
Yeah, we saw Jill Stein do this in those 3 states where she was like, "No, trust me, there's no way that they could have done it." And they spent what was it, $3 million, and only got 3 more votes for Trump.
Yeah, it was the margin of error that you know.
It was ridiculous. But
I think it's. I don't know if you read 538. Nate Silver said that.
I don't like Nate Silver.
Oh, I love Nate Silver.
I go to Real
but-
Clear Politics. That's my go-to if I want statistics.
Yeah, but either way, I think it's interesting. He pointed out that the 3 elections that have like kind of shocked him the most have all happened recently. It was Donald Trump. It was the Roy Moore winning, and then the what was the other one? The one that was 1 vote away.
Well, I thought it was the only
It was the House of
Virginia.
Delegates flipping from Republican to Democrat.
Yeah.
After
Okay,
17
that
years,
one.
and it was Shelley Simmons, but it was 1 vote that made the difference.
Right.
And like it's interesting how
There's
polarized
another one that
we
just
are.
happened where I can't remember where it was, but it was a tie vote, and then they pulled it from the hat.
It was that same one.
Was it that one?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
that
and then
same
they
one
redid it and
because
she won
they
by 1.
they did a recount.
I know the
and-
Republican won that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. After being drawn out of a
hat.
poll. Yeah.
Which I saw some people claiming that the Russians hacked that poll.
I hate to tell you, but every election,
it is me, it's the Russians.
every election we have from now on, someone will claim that.
Yes,
that will
they
be
will.
the go-to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just gonna that's
That's
going
going to become the thanks Obama of
Donald
this
Trump
era.
was saying that before he got elected. He was like, if I lose, it's because they hacked it.
Yeah.
Which that's just now the go-to is everyone's hacking everything because no one knows
thing is
anything about
that
it.
and fake news are going to become the most overheard.
Fake news, although almost feels,
Fake news has been around for a while. Like I said, the Sedition Act
feels like it's
Well, I don't
burning
know.
out.
Trump
though.
claimed
was
to
about
have-
fake news.
Trump claimed to have invented the term. At one
Yeah,
point.
yeah. They just didn't call it fake news.
I credit him with the term.
Yeah.
But he also claimed like no one else had ever called it fake news.
Never
before.
happened.
I was like, I don't know if anybody's ever used it. I think I'm the first one to use it. No, you're
I
not.
think I'm the first.
The English
Well,
language
he
has
may
been
have
around.
been like the one who made it fun to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely made it
like
fun to
it's
say.
fun to say
It is
now.
not
all
Just like
that
Kelly
fake
say.
news.
Just like
That's
Kellyanne
fake news.
Conway made alternative facts fun to say.
Oh yeah,
I'm
It's
sure
like
people
a
have used
huge
it before.
button for
Yeah,
a lot of
she-
people.
Trump has made a lot of things.
fake news.
I used to say the
Kellyanne-
word "fail" now, and just because of Trump, it's funny. to
Yeah.
me. It's-
Kellyanne Conway
Sad.
has
Failed.
helped TDAP quite a bit because of that one
She ever
sentence.
needs a job.
Right.
I was searching so hard for what to call that, and then she said it in week 3, and I was like, "That's it.
Yes.
Thank you."
Alternative facts.
Um,
Yeah, so Roy Moore, I think, was doomed from the start. I know for a while there I did think he was going to win, but I think that
I think though,
my old adage is always that the person who runs the better campaign, people are always going to vote for their interest. They just have to realize that it's their interest. And B, the candidate who runs the better campaign has a better chance of winning. And we saw that in Georgia whenever the Democrats dumped all of that money into that young guy, but he was a shit candidate,
yeah.
and he lost.
But
Yeah.
I think it is important too because we look at this and it, at least when we always talk about Roy Moore and what happened there, we always talk about it on a bigger scale of like, is this part of a trend? Because you keep hearing as midterms are coming up later
let's get
this
into
year,
that, the blue wave.
you
coming.
keep hearing people talk
Blue
about a blue
tsunami.
wave, and
I'm
so
not so
we
convinced.
we can debate whether or not that we think we should expect that, or if that's a little bit of an overreach right now. I do think that there is an important trend to notice. I think that there have been 6 special elections this year, and they've all been in very, very conservative districts,
Mostly conservative
or
districts, yeah.
whatever. I know the one that happened on the same night as the Alabama election was in, I can't remember which district in Iowa, but it was the town and country of Missouri or of Iowa. It was these guys vote for Todd Akin and Mitt Romney, the most conservative district. And the Republicans won all of the special elections in 2017 except for the Roy Moore election. But I think what is interesting to look at is the numbers there. In most of these places, the Republican always wins, and the scale is usually like the Republican
60 to
gets
20.
67%, and then the Democrat gets 20 to
and then
30.
there's some other people that do write-ins and whatnot.
Well, in all of these special elections in 2017, the numbers were 48 to 52 or something like that. They all had these huge
Some of
30.
them got that close.
Well, I
Other
mean, you
ones didn't get quite so close, but they still had an uptick in Democratic.
but they were like
participation.
35
Well, I mean, is it
point
also
swings.
is it also just voter apathy for the Republicans? And they usually see that with ruling.
And
Once your
that's
person
why-
becomes president, you quit voting. They saw that with Obama.
And I think, and again, it comes to, I think that why I don't think that the blue wave is coming, because I don't think that it's going to be. Now, do I know if Democrats are going to either gain the Senate or the House this year? I don't know that, but I don't think it's going to be a massive wave like they're saying it is, because first off, we've only seen this twice. So it is the beginning of a trend. We can say that. But at the same time, we're looking at Democrats were energized because they don't like Trump. And that's the main reason why they were coming out and voting. And Republicans, in my opinion, were demoralized mainly because of Obamacare. It didn't work. It wasn't passed. Now we've got the tax plan that has passed, which Republicans at about 80% say that they strongly support. And again, we're seeing that I don't know if you've been looking at the polls here lately, but as soon as the tax plan passed, boom, Donald Trump's going up, and his approval rating is about 41% right now, where it was at 37. Yeah. And then that happened, and then you just see it going right up.
Which is, because I mean, he has a legislative win now. So
he does, and it's something that,
but it's also like
Republicans care about.
I was pointing out to Brandon, there are polls done that like ask Republicans what their top issues are, and tax reform was always pretty low on the. Well, I know that Republicans overwhelmingly supported it, but I think nationally it was overwhelmingly
because wait 3 weeks when the money hits your paycheck.
But I don't know, because as we see, we're rolling into tax season right now. I just did my taxes, and it's not going to affect us this year. So I don't think it's going to help them, because we're not going to see the money till next year.
But it's hitting February, and then you're going to have months and months of.
Do you have an article? Because we can just go in and look at what we can just go into the tax thing now.
Okay, lump it all, because I think it's going to be a big deal when it comes to the midterms. I think that is going to motivate a lot of conservatives and Republicans.
I tend to agree with Frank that
the economy's doing very well.
I think as far as the 2018 midterms go, that it might be, it might have passed a little bit too late in the game.
This is
if this had gone into effect this month in January or February,
you're gonna have 9 months of extra money.
But you only have 8 years.
It's $30 a paycheck.
It's set to expire after 8 years, and Democrats are going to jump on that come the election season.
Right.
That you're getting a tax break, but while the rich people get it permanently, you get it for 8 years, and then you're going to see tax hikes.
But even then, it's only $400 increase, and that's from the rate that you're going to. So you're still getting a tax cut. You're still not going to pay as much as you are right now.
According to the AP News, millions of Americans will face tax hikes in the coming years, because the new tax breaks are set to expire after 2025.
Exactly.
But then you're saying that you're going to be able to buy votes with the money temporarily.
Every single time that taxes get lowered, you see that party gets way more votes.
Yeah, but I don't.
Yeah, but you've never seen a president like Trump before, who's
no.
So
but we'll see.
polarizing.
Again, we're seeing the approval rating swing up, and that's before we've even seen any of the effects. I think the problem with Democrats is they way overplayed their hand with this tax.
But that's easy to reverse.
I don't think it is.
I think it is.
You have, first off, not one Democrat voted for it. So whenever you've got 9 months of extra money in your pocket, you have to come to that
Democrat
going,
right now.
They didn't vote for it.
Ask a Democrat right now, what do they think about Obamacare?
A lot of them don't like it.
Yeah, they don't.
Because it didn't work. It was a failed promise.
But guess who's not holding them accountable for that? Their base.
Again, that's fine. But the independents, the ones that you need to pull in, not just your base, they figured out that Obamacare was shit. They figured out that it was a lie, and they didn't get to keep their doctors, and premiums didn't lower. They increased at a huge rate.
Right.
They realized that it wasn't good, so the only people who liked it were the ones that liked the idea of the Obamacare from the start. So I think that when it comes to this, Democrats are coming out saying, you have literally Nancy Pelosi saying this will be Armageddon, and then it doesn't happen. The economy skyrockets. You get more money in your paycheck for 9 months, and you're at the end of it going, none of you guys voted for this, and you said it was going to be the end of the world.
But the average American
But you have an $83 billion tax hike coming in 2025.
They do care about money, but you're talking about, in 2018, you're talking about like $30 a paycheck.
Yeah. And you're talking about, in 2015, an $83 billion tax hike for millions of Americans, because that's when it expires and the bill comes due.
2028.
2025.
2025.
Yeah, 8 years from now.
Again, that's fine, but
I just think even if they win in the short term, they're going to lose in the long term, because once this hurts the economy, or they start seeing the benefits,
it's not going to hurt the economy.
It will. It's adding over $1 trillion to the debt. It's going to ruin the economy.
First off, and here's a big misnomer about this. People keep saying it's adding $1.5 trillion to the deficit. It is not. It is adding $1.5 trillion to the debt.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
I know exactly. But I'm saying that's a misnomer that you see a lot of people saying. First off, we saw Obama running $1 trillion deficits, and we didn't. The country didn't do worse; it did better. This is only going to add $150 billion to the deficit. Right now, we're running about $400 billion deficits, so we're going to bump it to $550 billion of deficit. Not that much. We've already seen Apple bring back their jobs, which we've been trying to get them to do for 8-10 years, ever since they moved to China. We're seeing a bunch of companies bring it back because it's dropping from 35% to 21%. So we're already seeing that. Now the economy is almost at full employment, which is insane.
Yeah,
Jobs
we're doing great now.
And now for the first time ever, wages are rising.
I'm just saying, I think it's very short-sighted in the long term that we're
That's
setting
your
up something
income
that after
inequality.
Trump is gone in 2025, that we're setting up a question mark. We don't know what it's going to do.
I
All it is
think,
gonna
I do
increase-
think though that it like at any time that tax cuts or
8 years is a long time, by the way. Like,
It's a long
it's a
time,
long
but-
time for you guys to be getting more money.
Yeah, but it's not long that we should be thinking about it. Like, we should be planning more than 8 years ahead
It
of
even
time,
says,
especially when it comes to the economy.
They said the average person's going to save about $2,000 on this, and then whenever it expires, their taxes are going to be raised by about $400. You still are paying less in taxes 8 years from now than you are right now. That's what irritated me the most. Bernie Sanders kept saying that they're raising taxes on the middle class. No, they're not.
the other
But
thing
that's what I'm reading
well,
here with the AP News.
Exactly.
They're saying
Well,
it will
and
raise taxes after
tax-
2025.
They're saying it from that point. So yes, your taxes will go up from that point, but that's still less than right now.
Right.
So if you look at it from now being the base, your taxes will be
without
lower.
the tax cut at all. That you're not like you're worse off than you are.
Yeah.
With it rising after the tax
Right,
cut.
but if it just didn't do, let's say it didn't come into effect for 8 years, and then it bumped to the rate
there
that
are
it would,
there are
you'd be better off.
unforeseen circumstances that could fuck the whole thing. Like
It's easy to say. It doesn't look like
it's
that's
easy
happening.
To
The
do,
economy's booming,
which we'll
Like-
get into in a minute. But when
Yeah.
we're talking about cock buttons over here, and like those are foreseen circumstances that we shouldn't be getting ourselves into.
I think that's working too, because now you're seeing North Korea coming to the table. I don't know if you saw that with the peace talks. If
Yeah,
we're,
that's
if we're
not
doing
because of Trump, though. That was just kind of coincidental.
No,
What
but-
happened the same day.
I think that is a check and balance where
Yeah,
he's
South
being
Korea is
checked.
actually being the responsible one here
Yeah.
of like trying to get the negotiations back. I do think.
I think if you see them get North Korea come to the Olympics, you're going to see full
you're going to
peace
see
talks
people
coming.
recognize them as a
Yeah, I think it
legitimate
will. I
country.
think it'll happen.
Yeah,
That's my prediction.
he
Put it
just
on
has
the board.
to, I mean, I would say he has to stop acting as crazy, but then
we actually
we're
need to
clearly-
make a board in
I know.
2018.
Just make an Excel sheet. But anyway, going back to
your tax thing, you got called out on Twitter. And
Yeah, I did.
Do you have that? in front of
I
you?
don't have it in front of me, but I know what he was saying. My claim was that under Obama,
Shout out to Joey B. Again.
yeah, shout out to Joey B. My claim, I believe, was that we're growing at 3%, which only happened once during the Obama years, and that was wrong. It actually did happen numerous times.
I think 10,
8 times.
8 times.
Yeah, which again,
It
still,
couldn't happen 10 times in the Obama years.
well, it could have because it's each
Well,
quarter.
I guess,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
that's fine.
Each quarter, and
Yeah, Brandon.
That's fine.
shoot me
Dude,
down.
I told you, like, math
yeah,
and
I
economics.
believe that the average growth rate during the Obama years was, I think, 1.8%, but he did hit 3% of growth 8 quarters,
In
which
a
is
row,
25%.
right?
No, it was only twice where it was 2 times in a row it hit
Was
3%.
it?
But that's still a quarter of the time he was president. We
Yeah.
were growing at 3%, which 3% is
And that
considered
was
very good.
part of the argument I've been making is I think, like, obviously Trump has been growing the economy. I'm not going to argue that. But I think he inherited a growing economy from Obama.
He did, but again, it's, in my opinion, if you look at the numbers, it is really hard to argue that he didn't make it so much
Oh, I
better.
think he's made it better, but
Yeah.
I think we also have to
Construction
see
is at a
where it
13-year
goes, 'cause
high.
That's the only thing I would give him a passing grade on so far
Yeah.
is the economy has been
which
in
is
great
pretty
condition.
important.
It's very important, but also in
That drove me crazy during
It's
the
also, it's
Obama.
also, though,
Yeah.
like, it's. I think we should be careful to give any president too much credit for the economy,
Right.
Because a big part of the economy's success right now is based off the stock market, and
not true.
These things are
Stock
like,
market's important, but the regulations, and that's all that he's done with his
I get
executive
that.
orders.
I agree with you on the regulations. I think though that
That's why business
businesses
is coming back.
Yeah, but I think
businesses
are we going to
investing-
see another thing in 2008 where we saw people abusing their power?
I think
because of
that-
I think it's easier to
regulations.
abuse putting regulations in place. Like, I've seen them do it. Like I said, I know in my field.
I know, but I think that business, like corporate confidence about what they expect to happen it's good and it makes the economy good, but it's not necessarily something that you can credit to a person because they have an assumption, so they are investing money. That is not
Right.
They have an assumption because of what they think he will do.
Right.
It's not based on anything that
But
he
that's
has
the-
actually done.
That's the Obama. Well, first, it is based off a lot of things he's done. Again,
now
getting rid
at
of,
this point
Yeah,
in year
a lot of
in,
his-
yes,
getting rid of all the regulations.
but the
and
economy,
whatnot.
the stock market itself shot straight up, like right after the
because
election.
Because he promised he was going to do that.
And what I'm saying is that initial jump and initial push into 2017 was based off what they expected to happen.
Right.
He hadn't done anything.
You saw this with H&R Block when Trump said the only people who won't like this tax plan is H&R Block. Their stock plummeted in a day because people were suddenly worried that they wouldn't have jobs. But that you have to admit, the tax plan did not simplify the tax code that much. H&R Block, I think, is actually recording record.
My shit better be on a postcard.
Yeah. No, that was such a fucking gimmick.
Well, that's what we've already seen wages go up, because I know people keep saying, like, wages are starting to go up, and they will go up. Wages are going to go up for the first time in a long time.
Yeah,
but the only wages that have already gone up really is in the banking industry.
So and that's my, like, I keep saying anything that you can fix the tax plan all you want, but until you, like, address the wealth disparity in America and the wealth gap,
that's
really
do
what's
it. And that's what
us.
irritates me as a Republican, is because a lot of and immigration's a really great segue into that, because income inequality. Illegal immigration keeps his wages low. That's what it does, because there's a lot of unskilled labor. There's a big pool of them, and then they get paid under the table. So the wages stagnate. They stay low. When you get rid of that, then you start seeing wages go up. And that's why you also see wages go up during an economy that's close to full employment. Now people start competing for jobs. A, we're adding a lot of jobs. And B, if we're at full employment, now the guy can say, well, I can get a job somewhere else, so you need to do something to pull me in. And now we're seeing wages rise, which is the first thing you have to do to combat income inequality. The whole reason is that income inequality exists is because the stock market has gone so well, and businesses and corporations have done so well, and wages have stagnated for the workers. They haven't gone up. Now we're seeing it start to go up. And NPR did a really great article about the farming industry in California.
News.
Yeah.
I've heard you. Yeah.
But basically, because Trump came out and talked about his stupid fucking wall, which is dumb. But at the same time, when he did it, immigration went down by 75%, or illegal immigration went down by 75%. And they said what actually ended up happening in all of these farming sectors is when ICE started picking these guys up, and whenever they started self-deporting, all of the illegals basically left the agricultural fields. And so what happened is the farmers and the guys who run it said, shit, we got to replace them. So they started moving to automation. But to keep the workers they already had, they increased all of their wages. And now with the automation, they're producing products and getting higher profits. So actually ended up really helping the agricultural economy. And I know it's not real. Non-farm jobs aren't included in the job numbers. Yeah, that's why you always see non-farm jobs added. But that's an unintended consequence. It came from him talking about this dumb fucking wall. And
that's one of the few positive unintended consequences his words have had.
But illegal immigration does keep wages low, and that's why you say we need to switch to a better immigration system that values what can you add to the economy rather than just come on in.
But isn't that? I know we've talked about this, but it goes against that whole "give us you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry." We can't just take the smart people.
Yeah,
we have to take the disenfranchised.
That's great to say that, but it doesn't really help you.
It's great to say that. That's kind of what our country was founded on.
Kind of why we're here.
They were founded because they didn't want to pay their taxes.
Well, yeah, if we're being real.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of nice words that they, luckily they were great penmanship, and, they pinned a lot of shit.
They wrote well.
They wrote like a motherfucker.
So they did a lot of, a lot of that shit, and it became part of our thing. But again, things got to work. So if you're bringing in, you're bringing in more people and they're not adding to the economy, that's not going to be as good. So again, it all comes back to unintended consequences, and the biggest thing is seeing those wages rise. And we are. And it's because of a lot of these policies that are being promoted and the jobs coming in. So I think that all of this is going to fuel directly into the midterms, because right now we've had a year of.
I think that it's too early, man. I think once people see.
I think time will only help it, really, because people are going to start realizing, fuck, dude, the economy's really.
Well, it depends on what else happens with Trump's administration and the Miller administration. This could get a lot worse.
A lot of people just got bonuses.
Yeah, but wages.
Yeah, that's true though.
Wages aren't going to skyrocket in 8 months, and that's
even in the past month. Wages have gone up.
Target's already paying like $11.50.
Yeah, that's already happened to.
Well,
a lot of
did you see? There's a couple of companies. Apple did it. Yep. There's a couple of big companies that already come out and said they're there have been great consequences from it. But with any tax plan, I have to wait and see. I don't know enough about economics to say that in 10 years this is going to be a good
The only thing
move.
you have to worry about is bubbles, and the only bubble you have to worry about right now is Bitcoin.
That's the superhero movie bubble. That's going to burst.
Yeah. Bitcoin, man. What the fuck is that?
I don't even fucking get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
It's a fake currency.
Cryptocurrency. But
see,
all
when
I know
made
is
my own currency, I got thrown in jail. Apparently.
You put some numbers on the internet. I don't know how it works. But no, that's a bubble that's waiting to happen because it keeps inflating super fast
I think
and then
didn't it just
plummets.
it's going
It's
down.
a wild ride. So like, yeah.
Well, did it just become publicly traded or something, or what was the big?
One of them wanted.
I think
it was recognized, and then someone tried to get rid of it. And I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
know. I think I've heard of. Is it China or Japan where they're actually accepting it as payment now?
Yeah, because they were having currency issues of their own with inflation.
I'm
so
almost
now
positive
it's a more stable
it is
currency.
getting publicly.
Well, and I've actually read
now.
about it. And there's something in the way it's designed where it's going to be. There's only ever going to be so many created. It's designed so it'll limit it, cap itself eventually, and it's supposed to combat inflation somehow. I don't understand enough to.
Although it's
beyond
inflated,
that.
it like
ridiculous. I don't know if they. This was like 3 years ago when it first came out that I'd read about it.
Yeah,
but it's supposed to be designed to like be like bubble proof, and I don't think that's really working.
So bottom line is, when you look at the midterms, I think that what we've seen right now is a lot of Democratic enthusiasm. I think you're about to see Republican enthusiasm. I really do. And I think
I think Trump finally has a piece on the he can finally combat it now because he has a legislative win.
I think so too, but I think
and if the infrastructure bill passes,
I think it's too early to say blue wave. But I do think that what Trump has working against him, I don't think the Democratic enthusiasm isn't going anywhere. Look at that!
What did I tell you,
you bastard? We warned you.
Man,
ruining stuff. But I think that Trump has to be careful too of
Trump's never careful.
Not well, and that's the issue because
it is.
You need to.
Twitter's a thing.
When things are
just gave him twice
when your base has something to grab onto now, right?
Yeah.
Then don't fuck it up, and you know he's gonna fuck it up. He's already started to fuck it up. We're not even talking about we're talking about the tax plan in segment 2 because we're talking about Steve Bannon in segment 1.
Right.
Like,
but again, he hasn't fucked it up. Like we spent the whole time talking about the tabloid stuff, which if you care about that, you do. But with this tax plan, you see Republicans that, let's say that they're fiscally conservative, they're happy. Well, it is adding to the debt.
Yeah, they're
but
happy.
Hopefully, the idea is that it's going to generate so much growth that it's going to.
Here's that's one of the things we'll wait and see.
Here's my
full
point.
employment, you're going to be bringing in more revenue.
Well, yeah, as long as that. But then again, like we've seen in 2008, it doesn't take long to crash the economy.
Here's my point, though. Democrats are going to stay energized against Donald Trump.
Don't think so.
Republicans can be as happy as they want about the tax plan, but they also have to weigh that against being pissed off about Sessions and marijuana.
What I'm pissed off about Sessions.
They also have to weigh that against being pissed off about dumb fuckers like Roy Moore being representative of their party. They need they have things that they have to be careful about because that support can waver. And if it does enough, the Democrats are going to stay energized.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the people that aren't in power.
It's hard to energize
That's what
when you're already
learned.
in power. To be like, you come out and vote for us.
Well, I'll
like,
tell you what I
power,
think. I'll tell you what I think. And this is a prediction we can put on the board too. I think that if
there is actually no board for the record,
there's gonna be though.
Buy a board
on your wall right now.
I bought a studio. Buy a board.
Buy a board.
I actually didn't. Frank gave me a studio. so let me credit. Give
I
credit
do
where
have a
it's due.
prediction that if in 2018, if Comey comes out, not Comey, Mueller comes out and says there was no collusion and there's nothing to it, I think you're going to see a red wave. I think you're going to see Democrats demoralized.
If you think that's going to happen in 2008, though, because if you look at every other special investigation, it has taken usually 4 to 6 years to wrap up.
I can't see what else he's got left to do. He's interviewed everyone he's going to interview.
Money laundering, bro.
Bannon
told us
to actually prosecute
Bannon
people.
told us money laundering.
Yeah, but even then, there's only so much that you can.
I know, but if Kushner goes down, that is going to be a huge deal.
I also think too, just to jump back, throw back to Steve Bannon real quick, because I kept hearing conservatives, and I just did it jokingly. Conservatives all week were like, Democrats love Steve Bannon now. The racist white nationalists, they love Steve Bannon. No. We love that Steve Bannon told us shit that we already knew.
Right.
And so now we can go, see, he does drink a lot of Diet Coke. But
the important issues, CNN Live.
Right.
Breaking news.
But I think you can have both thoughts at the same time. Like, Steve Bannon's a bad guy.
We already saw that with Comey. We love Comey. I think
that
Hillary Clinton.
It was I don't really like John McCain, but when John McCain's thumb played such an important role in healthcare, how can you not smile?
Caesar
at that?
McCain.
One of my favorite moments of 2017. Just because of the build up.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty epic moment.
getting his brain operated on and being like,
I love how all of this shit happens at midnight now too. It's just
I know, it's man, they
late
really
in the
amp
hours
up
of the day. John McCain's
like, well, the
dropping
president's still up watching TV for another 5 hours.
What the fuck is this? Where's my Diet Coke?
So, yeah, I don't know.
That's my predict. Again, I can't make any predictions right now about 2018.
I think there's going to be a wave. I mean, I don't know about a wave, but I think they're gonna take a good number of seats.
Yeah, again, Democrats are fighting the uphill battle. They're the ones who are the challenger, and Republicans.
They are, but it's so easy to stay energized when you have Trump.
Yeah, but
tweeting
like I said, Republicans
3 or 4
are
times a
energized
day.
now. We're watching
2,500 tweets in a year.
Yeah.
His first year being president, like I don't know how many of them breaks down to in a day.
There's a
but
lot of
it's
people that don't
lot.
care about that, though. There's a lot of people who look at it and just go, all right, he's just saying something else stupid. The economy's doing good. I don't care.
I don't know. I see a lot of outrage on Twitter, and I mean maybe.
You do with that.
My echo chamber. But
well, that's also megaphoned as well. I mean, that's not everyone who has an opinion is actually typing. It's the people who are like, yeah.
Okay, but the North Korea button thing that got
got me.
Every week there's one thing that
didn't
gets
make me lose my
news.
support though. I mean,
no, but the pot thing might.
Yeah, that pissed me off, man.
Or any reaction, Jennifer, from the Pentagon to the president's tweet?
Well, John, no official reaction from the defense secretary, but certainly there are concerns that the president's tweet ratchets up the mano-a-mano brinkmanship and could interfere with efforts by South Korea's president to engage North Korea in talks after Kim Jong-un opened the way for those talks with South Korea during his New Year's address ahead of the Olympics slated for next month. South Korea has proposed those talks be held in the border village of Panmunjom next Tuesday. In the past 24 hours, North Korea has resumed the hotline between the two countries, which had been dormant for nearly a year. There have been 2 calls made between North and South Korea. U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley delivered the administration's message to North Korea yesterday at the UN.
We won't take any of the talks seriously if they don't do something to ban all nuclear weapons in North Korea. We consider this to be a very reckless regime. We don't think we need a Band-Aid, and we don't think we need to smile and take a picture.
China's foreign ministry responded to the president's tweet this morning.
Currently, the situation on the peninsula is sensitive and complex. We hope all parties concerned can remain restrained. What is said should be conducive to alleviating the situation, and what is done should help the early resumption of dialogue.
Protesters gathered in Pakistan's biggest city, chanting against the United States. They say their country has been insulted by US President Donald Trump. The reason? His first tweet of the new year was an attack on Pakistan. Trump said that the United States had foolishly given Pakistan billions of dollars in aid while being lied to in return. He added, "They give safe haven to the terrorists we hunt in Afghanistan, with little help, no more." On the streets of Karachi, that was seen as a betrayal.
This statement of Trump is in fact an insult to Pakistan's role in his cooperation with America. This has always been the attitude of America. It leaves its friends after its task is accomplished.
Pakistani Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi chaired a security meeting in Islamabad in response. Officials defended Pakistan's role in fighting terrorism, and the US ambassador has been summoned to explain Trump's comments. Pakistan is a long-time ally of the United States and has cooperated with the US military, but Islamabad is also accused of allowing militants to operate freely along its border with Afghanistan. Trump says Pakistan can't have it both ways.
Yeah, hi, Judy. Now, this is now the most serious internal crisis that Iran has seen in almost a decade. It started with protests against the economy, but it has morphed into this much bigger 7-8 day series of demonstrations against the religious leadership, the regime, and critically the supreme leader himself, Ayatollah Khamenei. It's unprecedented. The death toll now stands at 21, with over 1,000 arrested, and the US has said they will consider more sanctions if the regime gets violent.
We must not be silent. The people of Iran are crying out for freedom.
The US is also calling for an emergency UN meeting to discuss. This is a new wave of protesters, mainly under 25s, angry at the regime's corruption, and crucially, they come from the regime's rural, traditional strongholds. And many of them are also angry because the nuclear deal promised them sanctions relief and better quality of life. Instead, they have seen the Iranian government spend billions on Hezbollah, on Syrian wars abroad, and meddling in other countries. Now the government is responding, and they've been airing videos of counter-demonstrations across the country by tens of thousands of pro-regime supporters. But many analysts analysts believe these crowds will have been bussed in specifically for the purpose. The regime has threatened to crack down with an iron fist, but so far they've been cautious. And at last we have heard from the Ayatollah Khamenei himself, who had remained very quiet up till now, and as ever, he blamed Iran's foreign enemies for this.
All right, now let's get into the rest of the week. I guess a little bit more of an unconventional one, as this is the first episode of 2018. But we'll go into the North Korea tweet. Donald Trump has a habit to tweet. I don't know if anybody knows that or has heard that.
Obviously,
he has a habit. So we've got.
Man, if I'd bought Twitter stock a year ago,
know.
We've got 3 this week that involve foreign policy. So I'll let you go ahead and start with that.
Yeah. So he tweeted. So this is the quote: North Korea leader Kim Jong-un just stated that his nuclear button is on his desk at all times. Will someone from this depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a nuclear button, but it is much bigger and more powerful. A much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works.
Oh,
which I think is haven't their button just been improved in the last year to the fact that
is that
it
actually
can reach us?
a dick comparison?
It is
what
a
we're
nuclear
doing
dick
now?
comparison.
I had forgotten that he said his dick was big. Like there's so much shit
During
going on.
the primary.
You know the button's not really any bigger either. It's just
It's
his
probably
hands.
No, like it's so much. My button is so much redder than yours.
You know,
Oh, it's a hands joke.
it is. It is.
I love
Hashtag
the
bullies.
Orange and Cheetos.
Food starved regime though. He's gotten more elegant now that he has like 200 and whatever characters.
And
Right.
to me, this tweet of the 3 is probably the most,
didn't like it.
concerning
Yeah.
to me. I don't think nuclear war is something to just be thrown around
Yeah.
like that.
Well, you need to see what Kim Jong-un said also. So his original comment, what did he say? He was talking about it, but he just said that the Americans want to bully us into getting rid of the nukes or something like that. But just to say, I have a nuke button on my desk. I'm not saying that as a threat. It's just a fact. So that's what he said going into it. And I know that a lot of people are like, he's going back and forth. And it's like, no, they're both just kind of being like, hey, asshole.
You don't
fuck
want to
up.
be at a point, though, do you, where your president is like comparable to Kim Jong-un?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
There's a better way to have done it and to have handled it. I'm not actually
Could be the
worried.
motto. They could use that as the motto for their campaign if they want to run again.
Yeah, I don't think
we could have done it better.
Yeah, I don't think Kim Jong-un in any way, shape, or form wants to do it. I think that I think that Kim Jong-un, other previous administrations thought that maybe he could get a nuke off, and that would be a way to bring people to the table, because it would be kind of like a World War II, don't invade Poland, oh shit, he did, okay, fine, you can do whatever you want type of scenario. Now I think that he knows Donald Trump wouldn't do that he is probably fucking crazy enough to nuke North Korea if North Korea nuked someone else.
They've actually. I'm surprised with how mature North Korea has acted in
I think it's
the
because of
weirdest
that.
sense of
Yeah,
I mean, it's weird to say mature
self-preservation.
in that sense, but
He knows what he's
that-
doing.
now that he's got the nuke, he's played it more like I'm going to use this as a bargaining chip to get to the
Yeah.
table.
Where
with the
before I
Olympics
thought that he
coming
might
on now
actually
and him
do
like
it.
pushing to get in the
I
Olympics.
actually think, though, that what we're seeing now, especially because what did you say? You read something right before we came back about
Trump saying that he very much looking forward to opening the dialogue with North Korea, and he hopes that the South Korean and North Korean talks yield a positive result.
which that comes like 2 days after North Korea and South Korea had talks for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, they opened it back up.
Have you seen a picture of the phone that they opened up?
Does it look
looks
official?
like a bat phone from the 60s. There's one is green and one is red. So
Oh,
I'm guessing like if
shit.
they're pissed at him, they pick up the red phone.
Are you fucker?
Yeah.
Green means go. Let's do it.
I didn't see the light. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I think
that North Korea just brought themselves to the table.
Yeah, they did, and I think that obviously now that they can nuke St. Louis,
remember somebody-
the time for war has passed. You're not going to get it.
Now
I think
you
that
got
we
me
should.
worried, so
yeah,
I'm
I think we
gonna-
should have taken him out a long time ago before he had the capabilities of actually fighting back.
Yeah,
I
but
remember
we've seen that
somebody-
with like Fidel Castro. It doesn't
Yeah.
always work. It's easy to say
You
take
gotta-
him out, but sometimes it's
yeah.
hard.
You got to set up shop. Yeah, you can't. Just,
Well, yeah, Assad. I mean, there's
Right.
Let's take him out. He's a bad guy. We all know that, but
Right, but we
it's
didn't do
not
it. We
that
just threw
simple.
money and weapons at the rebels and tried to let them take him out,
Right.
and then they failed.
Did
So-
you see the CDC now as though they're going to hold a public briefing on how to prepare for nuclear war?
Yeah.
So
Really?
like it is, it is
Again,
like
I
somewhat
think
like
nuclear war.
and I don't know if this is just like the 50s people building bomb shell bunkers when it turned out to be nothing. But it does seem like people are kind of freaking out. Like we have like the
I don't know, when Nancy Pelosi says the tax reform bill is Armageddon, I think people are kind of in a state of hysteria.
But
on
I think
almost
that's also
everything right
that's
now.
the state of politics right now. It's just that
It's hyperbole,
it's
dude.
fear tactics. They do it.
The Republicans did it for 8 years, and now it's the Democrats' turn.
The Republicans
It's all
still do it. Both sides do it all the time. Throughout history, there is always that
Right.
faction. There's the Steve Bannon
Eventually
getting
you
up saying,
have
Well, I
"You're
mean,
going
it's
to
a-
go to hell
It's
if
a
you don't
human
vote
condition.
for it."
Nothing motivates a human like fear. Nothing will
Right.
get you off your ass more than fear.
Right.
Unless you got more money in your pocket and you're going to go vote.
Yeah, I guess money and sex, but fear is that
That's
it's
right.
easier than buying votes.
That's right.
Scaring them.
Right. So then he had a couple of other tweets this week.
That's true every week.
I know.
This one also foreign policy based. This was on Pakistan. He tweeted on January 1st. Actually, at 6:12 a.m. I know this was a big deal because in the clip that I played, that was inside on the streets of Pakistan, and like. That was something that had been talked about, was the fact that like it was the first tweet of the new year. Everybody in the world's like hungover, and Donald Trump's like,
"Fuck you,
Pakistan." That was an instant sober tweet. Just like everyone perked up.
The United States has foolishly given Pakistan more than $33 billion in aid over the last 15 years, and they've given us nothing but lies and deceit. Thinking of our leaders as fools. They give safe haven to terrorists. We hunt in Afghanistan with little help, no more.
I agree with him on this one.
Yeah, it's not that I don't agree with him. It's just like, is Twitter wouldn't policy be more effective?
I don't think so.
I think when you end all your statements with an exclamation mark,
It's so true. Words. So sad.
So true.
Yeah.
Not good.
Or very unfair.
Unfair.
He types in mannerisms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
again, I totally agree with this.
Here's the thing, though. They are, as far as like to the policy point, like they are talking. That came along with like Nikki Haley saying that they were going to halt some way, like that our money gets to them, like the UN is a stopping ground, and they're going to cut aid to Pakistan or whatever.
Yeah. Again, it sounds fine to me.
Here's the thing. I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah.
I agree with you though, Frank, that I think like so where's the line, right? Because like we look
for what?
We look the other 15 of 19 hijackers in 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. Where's
Saudi Arabia? Oh my god.
Yeah,
but because they're financially important to us, we tend to look the other way when it's someone we need.
We got a
something
benefit,
from.
yeah. So even if that's his reasoning behind it, is that they're withholding information on terrorism, which is true.
Which is
but if they were giving us
hypocritical
something,
because
also,
it's not like that's because if that was the be all end all of why we cut off aid, we should be cutting off aid to much more. You know?
They're also just not doing anything else for us.
It's hard to like. I understand why other countries hate us because they see that. Like I see how hypocritical we can be. And it's easy to see, like,
they hated us long before that. They've always hated us. They were just taking our money.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think you have to kind of worry about.
I'm taking money from people I hate.
Exactly. It's like, you're throwing
That's the best way to
$1
take
yeah,
money.
sure.
I think something you have to worry about, though, is that you know how those governments talk to their people and how they lie to their people and how they control what they're able to see and how they think about Western society. So I think that when things like this happen, when we cut aid, now it's easy for us to sit over here and say they're using our money for bad shit. They're using our money and they're funneling it into Hezbollah and they're funneling
they're
it
doing
into,
that. They're
like,
just using it for themselves, not giving us anything in return.
But here's the thing, like when you're the person on the street in a hut that's benefiting from that aid, or even if you aren't, but you think that you're benefiting, and you're being fed that now America's cutting you off because they're blaming you for Osama bin Laden being here, which I think we're right to do. He was like 3 feet away. There's no way you didn't look
you didn't
there.
see this guy?
So like I totally agree with the sentiment,
hiding in America
but I think
after the war,
I think an unintended consequence of the action could be that now you have to worry about more.
Yeah, I think that's I don't like that position just because That's an Obama position where he was just like,
I'm
well,
not saying that you should act differently.
Yeah.
I'm saying that don't be surprised.
It could be. It's called blowback. So there is,
right.
that's
if
a real
somebody
thing.
gets run, if a sidewalk gets run down, like don't be surprised because people are pissed now.
Right.
I'm not saying change your action based on that because that's kind of the same idea as negotiating.
Yeah,
with
it's
the
just like, well,
terrorists.
just throw money to terrorism so that maybe
I'm
they
not.
won't hate
I'm
us.
not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. But don't be surprised now if you see an uptick over the next period of time. Whatever.
Right. So we'll see if that goes. I mean, terrorism is
we'll see.
On the decline since ISIS is finally.
And you have another.
Gone.
You have another tweet. Middle East.
I do. For
involved
Iran.
For Iran, a little bit different tone on that tweet.
Right. So Iran basically has had a lot of protests against their government, which, as we saw the last time, whenever there was supposed Arab Spring in Iran, the government's been shutting it down and doing really intense methods of doing that. So Donald Trump tweeted out, "Such respect for the people of Iran as they try to take back their corrupt government. You will see great support from the United States at the appropriate time." I agree with this one too.
This has got to be one of those Cuban overthrow things. If the planes don't show up when he says we're gonna support them, and that's the thing though. Where it's like you can say if you say on Twitter we'll support you, and then you can't get the legislation passed, you're gonna piss off people.
Yeah, I think if you see that
this is the same thing we complained about with that you specifically complained about with like Obama. It's nothing more. Being behind the people of Iran is nothing more than condemning the actions of somebody. Like it's nice to say.
It is nice to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's gonna happen.
It's the same thing with Syria. Like, hey guys, we support you.
We support you.
We're not going to help you.
We're not going to help you whenever your houses are being destroyed and you're being forced out of your ancestral home. But we might take you in.
Right.
Aren't we the good guys?
We still haven't
we won't take you in.
Haven't helped
oh
the people
wait,
from the hurricane.
we won't take you in because you're on a ban list.
Right.
So
Puerto Rico.
Sorry about that, guys. No, but again, I like the sentiment. It's nice. I don't think that the revolution is going to happen.
It's as nice as saying thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, I mean it's basically what it is. So I agree with it. Yeah, I'm not gonna bash him for saying it because that's good. But I don't
see why that would be like that controversial of a statement.
No,
like
not at all. And I also agree with the sentiment on this tweet. But I mean, it doesn't do much. So
I mean, I agree with any person who is
Iran's
backing people standing up to a terrible regime.
Yeah, go look at Iran in the 50s. Like it was a booming metropolis and it looked super modern.
Yeah,
and
even the
everything
70s.
Yeah.
Like there were like it was much more progressive.
And
Women
then those damn women
they
started
banned,
doing better in school.
Yeah, that's what they banned women for going to college because they were graduating at higher rates than men, and they were like, "What is this? I don't like this." And they shut
this
it
isn't
down.
what we intended.
Right. So
you should have asked Donald Trump. Women are more likely to support men. You just got to get them on your side.
Just got to get them on your side.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. As far as Trump's tweets go, I wish the same thing that I will wish for his entire presidency. Like, tone it down a little bit.
I don't mind these ones.
These don't. No, but
are we sure he wrote these and his lawyer didn't write them? Are we positive?
That's a good point.
According to that book, they're saying Trump 100% writes everyone.
Well, I love that there's only one in question. It was the one that people were like, "That's proof of treason." His lawyer like, "Oh, I wrote that one.
I didn't write that one."
How convenient.
By the way, did you guys know I grabbed the pussies?
just want to make that known.
Okay, I don't know. Did anybody else hear that he was privately claiming that tape was doctored or manipulated?
Yeah,
recently.
Yeah, because Billy Bush came out and was like,
yeah,
"What the fuck?"
Like there was like 4 people in the room. We have witnesses.
I was there.
I think it's more of him being scared about the repercussions the post-Weinstein thing is going to have.
Because it will.
He has like 42
absolutely
accusers.
Will.
He is like a Bill Cosby amount.
Now I know that,
and I'm not buying into that whole like Sean Hannity bullshit. Like, did you know? Not Loretta Lynch. Fuck. What is the name now I can't think of both of them.
Riveting.
Yes, this is good
riveting
radio.
content.
But the lawyer who was involved was like offering women like
money to come forward.
To me, like that, I'm not buying that.
That's also
I totally buy that.
To me, that's spin.
Well, yeah,
though. Like
every lawyer.
Totally
so
you're telling me,
did you get hurt in this? Call us for this class action lawsuit.
Right.
They're looking for customers.
You're telling me that no other news organization or lawyer has ever paid for a story or a case.
It's only illegal if you're like, hey, we'll pay you to say this.
Yeah.
Then it becomes legal.
But it's perfectly
do
legal
you have something
to say
like,
like,
we'll pay
hey,
you.
if this happened to you, I can get you money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They always do that.
I mean,
and as we've seen with a lot of people, like they do get money. That's the number one thing that happens.
I just keep seeing that, but I do think that number, those 42 accusers, that's going to come back, and I think it's actually smart that it's not being talked about now. It's a good
you don't
play,
want to fatigue it.
Right? It's a good play by the Democrats for not bringing it up.
I guarantee you they're researching it though. They are compiling.
It's the reason
it.
Roy Moore and that fact, like the whole Me Too movement and the way that Donald Trump will play into it or does play into it, is I think it's the reason that they're not saying anything about it right now. I think they're very smart for not saying anything about it now. And I also think it's the reason that people like Conyers and Franken are gone, because
they want that transparency of, look, we don't tolerate in our own
right.
camp.
Well, and they
you saw that they were trying to get Franken back in.
Yes, which was so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
That was so dumb.
And there's still a lot of support for him.
Because I've read Franken's books. I actually kind of liked him. I thought he was kind of funny. But like the moment that came out, I was like, "Yeah, fuck him." Just, like that's like I'm not standing behind someone who obviously from the photos is like groping a woman who's sleeping. He needs to be fired.
But I think that's gonna be a big thing in 2020. I really do. I think that they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, look at all these people that got held accountable for their shit."
Right.
And we've got 42 women on a list right here.
Didn't Al Franken try to play that card of like, I don't know why I'm being pushed out when Trump got to be president?
Which I thought was a bad play when he did it, because it just gave people.
It was almost admitting to it. It was like, I know I'm bad, but he's worse.
It was like coming out to do the right thing, but then like I'm gonna take a few blows, like I'm gonna land a few blows.
What was the Kevin Spacey thing? Like I apologize. Also, I'm gay, so that absolves me. Like no, dude, not at all.
Well, even look at Harvey Weinstein when he came out. He was like, it was all consensual. I'm gonna fight Trump.
What did he also say? Like I'm from a different time in the 70s. It was like that excuse.
When it was still wrong to slap your secretary. His ass. Sorry, gentlemen. Newsflash.
Yeah. The Equal Rights Amendment was floated in the 70s. I know this was a thing.
That bullshit argument. Don't fight with older generations.
It's locker room talk.
They were from a different time. Yeah, when racism was still wrong.
Yeah.
I don't care, Nana. I'm calling you out. Yeah. So anyway, I think we'll go into summing up 2017. For each of us.
Do you remember when they were talking about like 2016, what the worst year ever? Goodbye.
Oh my God!
If only they'd have known. We'll just wait for it.
Again, I thought that was a great year. I know Democrats and Republicans have a very different
I thought it was
opinion.
a great year to produce content for this show.
Yeah,
because it made it easy.
It definitely was.
But I still see Democrats that are like, look how much worse off everything is. I'm like, you're not paying attention because
the show would have been way more boring.
Not everything's great.
It's pretty damn close.
That's no. For you, everything might be
I can't think of anything that's really worse. I mean, what's actually gotten worse?
That our government isn't functioning.
It seems to be doing its job.
It passed one
piece of legislation.
One piece of legislation.
No, they passed more than just that. That's just the big piece of legislation. It was just big news that they didn't pass Obamacare. They've been doing other stuff, and the House has been pumping out bills left and right. They've done everything. It's just
I've
the
seen
Senate
them fail on a lot of things, and I think the
amount of firings alone is
well, that's an administration thing. Again, that's not.
Well, yeah, but it's unprecedented to lose this many people this soon.
Yeah, I think
it goes back to what's the country doing. I mean, I just see that his administration, you could argue, is goofy because it is.
Yeah,
but is the country worse off? No.
I think you'll see. I think a year's a little soon. Like these things take time to play out.
But if that's what we're
doing,
I mean, again, we're summing up the year. And we're looking at it, and that's what they're doing too. Is saying this has been the worst year.
I mean, I honestly don't know if this has been the worst year. It'll be like 10 years before we're able to decide what this year led to.
I don't think it's been the worst year. But
I think this year is just a build up to something, whether good or bad. I don't know, but it's got me worried because it feels like
good.
Feels like an EDM song right before the drop happens.
I don't know. I think that 2017 was definitely an interesting year. It was a great year to start the show.
Right.
I'm glad Hillary Clinton did not win because this would not have been as fun.
I don't think it would have been as good either.
But
although I was in her book, she did talk about her first. What she would have done immediately was infrastructure, and that's something I want to see happen.
And we even talked about that. You guys talked about that the first episode That should have been Trump's number one.
Should have been what he wanted.
I think
to do.
Which, if he does, I can see that being a legislative
win.
win.
This year. This year, he said that the first thing they're going to do is infrastructure, and they want to do it
I don't see.
bipartisan.
Wouldn't that help the economy anyway? You're giving a bunch of money to construction crews to fix up bridges and
construction
stuff.
is at a
That's going to be a
13-year high.
booming industry. That's a low-wage jobs that are going to suddenly become like.
Dude, it's going to be insane.
If you could define 2017,
Bernie Sanders has been talking about it, but he's a dingus.
We're like almost to an I am legend point with our bridge state in this country.
Time to fix shit.
If you could define 2017 in one word or phrase,
growth.
What?
Growth.
Growth?
Yeah.
Kofefi. That sums it. Just kind of like bewilderment. We still don't know what it means,
but it's there.
Friend of the show, Dan, who is literally
he's been here. We promise.
He's talked.
Well, you know
our
what?
ears
It's kind
off.
of bullshit that you're just gonna edit out all my racy comments. that I had. So don't listen.
Now we're
to
gonna
these
edit in
schmucks.
racist comments.
Can you sum up 2017 in a word or phrase?
Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
I would
Just hyphen
say
all those words together.
I would say culture wars.
Yeah.
That's not one word either. You're breaking your own rules.
It's a phrase.
You said words.
What's the phraseology here?
I would say culture wars is the biggest thing to come from 2017. Yeah. The two sides do not like each other. It started in 2016.
Well, it started before that.
Shit,
We saw the Tea Party,
Yeah, Tea Party.
alone.
Take our country back.
Yeah, but
we seem like a left Tea Party now, which I don't know what
Right,
we're
now
gonna
the
call
pussy
it.
hats are running around. Take our country back.
Pussy hats is the name for it
They
now.
weren't pussy hats. They were dick hats. Like you always say that.
They are pussy hats. That's the
That would
feminist
just
hat.
be confusing. Like people, what the hell is on that hat?
We should go back and figure
It's a
out
pussy hat.
amongst
Shoot up
other
as you go.
goofy things that Mitch incorrectly says all the time. He says he says James Comey in place of Bob Mueller like almost every time. And then when we start talking about that, he's like, "We're not even talking about that investigation." Well, you didn't say the right fucker's name.
Just have to prove that one because I'm pretty sure I said the right one. But it's definitely pussy hats. Definitely not dick hat.
Pussy.
I don't think so.
It definitely
I
is.
remember dildos on college campuses everywhere.
That was one, but the
That was
feminist,
for guns, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Like
the feminist hats is the pussy hats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, was that from the Women's March?
Yeah, that's the pink
Okay.
hat.
Okay.
And then a bunch of world leaders started wearing pussies on their head, and it was weird.
Yeah, it's a little
Like,
Black Mirror couldn't predict that.
yeah.
So, well, I think that's a good way to end.
We
We weren't even gonna do.
our favorite stories, but
Yeah, we still got to talk about 2018 predictions.
Oh.
Well, fine.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck it.
Predictions.
Yeah, dude.
Let's keep fucking going. Then.
Yeah.
This podcast, there's no rules. So.
That's right. For our best story
the
for
first episode of the
2017.
new year, we're going a little long.
Yeah,
Sorry to
right.
interrupt.
Right.
But
I
feel
think we had a
like
good length.
Yeah, we're
But-
not even close to a little long for
we're not even
us.
close
for
to a
us.
little bit long.
You guys have rambled on alone a lot longer.
It was like 3 hours. No, I think my favorite story of 2017 was, or my favorite thing that happened, I guess, was pulling out of the Paris Climate Accords. That made me very, very happy. It made me very discouraged hearing everyone talk about it online because I was just like,
It's
that's
such
all
a
wrong.
Darth Vader thing to like, oh yes.
No, it's so good.
I know
It
what you
was-
mean. Because
Yeah.
you express your point, but just to
you
say
see
it like
us
that,
blow
just be
up
like,
that planet?
Fuck the environment.
Right.
Such a Monty Burns, like excellent.
Right. It was discouraging to see everyone talk about it online because I was just like, that's not right. Like no. But in terms of things that I wanted to see happen and did happen, that and TTP, but that happened immediately, so there wasn't a lot of.
I totally forgot about so much.
But that was a
happened
very
in
good thing to have happen
2017.
as well. That was awesome. But again, I think that Climate Accords was my favorite thing. It kind of edges out over everything else.
My favorite so far, and I brought it up to you, was that we might have discovered alien life. I don't know. Pentagon apparently has been like given
aliens
$22 million for the last 10 years to search for alien life. And there's been, I don't know if it was the Freedom of Information Act request, but they've released a lot of footage of Air Force pilots encountering UFOs.
Oh my God!
Yeah, there's
And
tons and tons.
There's just Elon
There's
Musk
a lot of them
flying
that
around.
just came out, and apparently someone's compiling a book where they're interviewing all these people. I think was it Orrin Hatch who was behind this,
Maybe.
or I believe, and someone like kind of influential came out and said that this convinced him that there's undoubtedly aliens visiting this planet.
I think there is undoubtedly aliens. I don't know about visiting the planet.
I think it's hilarious though, and they claimed it ended in 2012, and then someone
know.
came
Have
out the
you
other
seen
day and
Kushner?
claimed it's still going.
Maybe.
Favorite
Yeah.
sport?
But I made the comment like, please.
Oh man! Oh my God! Do we
Favorite
still
ice
have
cream?
those? Do you still
Vanilla.
have those?
No.
I can't wait
Oh,
if
that's
aliens
unfortunate.
land.
I would
My favorite
release
ice cream is
those with
vanilla,
a
though.
TDAP sticker on them so fast.
Favorite food? Potato.
My prediction: aliens will land, and then Trump is gonna get into like an altercation, calling them like green-headed fucker, googly-eyed fuckers or something.
They're like, take me to your leader. Would you settle for somebody less?
Would you come back in 4 years?
Right. Oh, that would be amazing. Just so that the audience is in on that little inside conversation there, we had I started a series of memes during the election.
Jared Kushner memes.
Because Jared Kushner looks like he is the most boring fucker on the face of the planet.
When he dresses down, it's like a pink polo.
When the first time, wasn't it the first time he testified that we had like a whole segment on like it? I didn't know he talked.
Yeah.
And then he did it behind closed fucking doors, and no, he did say something.
Yeah, because John Oliver's made this joke for a while, putting Gilbert Gottfried's voice. No one knows what he sounds like. He's not been recorded talking yet.
It's so funny.
Yeah, so we had basically an ongoing. Oh my God, there was probably like 50 memes of
There's
why
a lot saved in my phone.
Why Jared Kushner was the most boring person.
Right.
Favorite sport?
You got Ivanka.
Favorite movie? Books.
Oh man, yeah. If you've got those, we should put those up on the.
Oh yeah, we'll make those the
fun.
background for a while. Sure.
So I have a weird answer for my favorite story of the year because it wasn't a good story, but I was glad that I got to take part in the Stockley protest.
Yeah.
I was
Too bad
glad
they didn't vote to defund the cops.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Well, there was, if you remember though, there was a little bit of that was like a bittersweet loss because like they didn't come out and they didn't vote to defund the cops, but by passing that Prop P in St. Louis, they funded the special counsel to
look into it.
It was like a rider on the bill, so even if they won, they lost. It was kind of like a way to ensure.
There you go.
And they, what was it? They actually got more money than they asked for. I think whoever it was, the board of whoever, alderman or however it got on state legislature, whatever. They asked for like 1.2 million, and I think they got like 1.5 or 1.8 or something. So they got more than what they wanted to set up a special counsel. And like for me, it was cool to be in that. Like it, I would have rather it had been a different circumstance, but like to actually be on the ground there was something that was new to me and was very cool. It was very interesting.
We never get to be in the national spotlight like that. It's interesting to see it unfold in your backyard and then see it reported on the news.
Right.
Yeah.
And to know that I got better content than half of the fucking news station.
And he got sniper rifles pointed at us. That's always
that was fun. Yeah, I was like, that's a guy with a sniper.
Those were definitely some interesting weeks. So that was, at least as far as from a content perspective, that was my favorite story that we did. Not my favorite thing that happened in 2017. You got one?
I don't know. I think this North Korea stuff, I think that's kind of a big deal.
That was what Obama said going into it. He's like, they said, what's the one thing that Trump is going to have to deal with? And he said, North Korea. Like, there's no way around it. That's what he's going to have to deal with.
And you remember he started the year by being like, that guy's got it rough. We should just pat him on the back and massage his little shoulders. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Actually, if we're getting off topic, my least favorite news of the year was that John Dunsworth died. Mr. Leahy. That still burns, man.
I know. That's still... Rest in peace, the liquor.
Yeah. He's in shit heaven right now.
Yeah. Watching over us like a shithawk.
Charles Manson died too.
That's probably one of my favorite moments.
Probably a good moment on the year, though.
Word.
You know, there you go.
Everyone loves the mooch. I mean, that was the gift.
Oh my God!
Writes a book.
Actually, I'm changing it. That's my favorite story of the year.
Yeah, Steve Bannon can suck his own
36
cock.
hours of bliss. The mooch.
I still periodically go back and reread that rant because it's the greatest thing put to paper. Like, that deserves a Pulitzer, in my opinion.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So funny.
The mooch.
If I'm awesome, I might give you like a New Year's present and just put a few alternative facts on from over the
There
year.
was rumors that the mooch was like telling people Trump wants him back.
He wants me back, guys.
And then, but he shot them down. He said they were just rumors. But
Yeah.
I've read a couple of credible reports being like, no, he's trying to get back in the White House.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, that's.
What do you think about 2018 predictions?
I think we're going to see them take at least like 14 seats come November.
What,
I don't
Democrats?
know. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
I mean, how many are up? 20?
I don't.
Something.
I don't know.
It is.
I
20
think about half. I'd say about 14 are going to be.
But the Democrats
gonna
are
be taken.
defending more too than the Republicans are.
Yeah. I expect a couple Democrats will probably lose.
A prediction for local.
I think
news,
weed's gonna win big in 2018.
Weed?
Yeah, I think with California, I think they're gonna. This is gonna be
maybe. I don't know.
So as the Democratic Party is on the defensive in 2018, as they are left defending 25 seats, 2 of which are held by independents, while only 8 seats are up for election in 2018 that are held by Republican incumbents.
Oh, they're only doing 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think altogether they'll.
I knew it was going to be an uphill battle for.
Yeah.
Is that? That's not all together though.
That's Congress, so that's putting in the House and the Senate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was more.
I think.
At least I think no, because the House does it every 2 years, but I don't know. Every 2 years the House votes, but I don't know how many people are up for
real.
it.
Yeah, up for re-election every 2 years.
I don't know. I think that Claire McCaskill will win her seat in
putting that on the
Missouri.
board?
Think so?
I will put that on the board.
I don't know. I'm saying
I'm 50. I'm split on that.
I'm on the fence for actually voting for her.
I think she's too.
Yeah,
I think she's too smart, and that's why.
Yeah.
Mitch has not ever said a nice thing about her on the show, and neither have I. I don't
Right.
like Claire McCaskill.
Well, she kind of won me
plays
over
it
in the
too
past couple months because she's been doing a ton of town halls, and also just hearing her, like when she debated the tax plan. Again, I'm a big supporter of the tax plan, but there are bad things in it, just like there's bad things in every bill. And I was watching the coverage on C-SPAN, and she called out this one loophole for colleges, where basically if they turned down giving their students aid, then they would be able to write off donations or something like that. And she brought up Betty DeVos. She was like, so this school is run by Betty DeVos. Guess who the #1 donor was for the school? Betty DeVos. So if you do that, you're taking away federal money for the students that need it the most. So you're basically shoving all the poor people out of your school. And then you get to donate to yourself and write it off.
Yeah, which is
like,
he
was all bad. Like I was just like, oh shit.
She does make good points. I'm interested. I know she's gonna face a really nasty battle though this year because there are already more money pouring
Josh,
in for.
Was it Hartley?
Yeah, for the Republican.
Josh Hawley.
Yeah.
But he was endorsed by Bannon, so there's no.
Well, Bannon was just endorsing all the conservatives, but
I think Bannon endorses everyone, and when they win, he just points to that as like, look, I can make an election.
I don't even know how he has enough time between trying to suck
time
his
in the
own
world now.
cock all the time.
He's gonna be doing that for the next couple months because he ain't doing anything else.
I don't know. We'll see. I still think that's going to it's never good when that's the story.
Yeah.
Like when you're not talking about taxes, when you're not talking about whatever, when you're not moving forward into infrastructure and shit, when this is what we're focused on. I also think, here's a prediction for 2018. I think that Donald Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner will be indicted, and I think that's when you might start seeing some shit get weird.
I don't know if
because
they'll be
Donald Trump
indicted.
has proven, especially with this new Bannon thing, that like he's going to fight. He's gonna stand by his family no matter what. So if they can catch them on some shit. On some shit. I could see. I'd like here. This is a huge hypothetical. I don't.
Hypothetical highway. Here we go.
This is not my prediction, but I could see that if they got them with something, him resigning to keep them out of trouble.
Yeah.
Like I think that's Donald Trump's personality.
I can almost see because if any
Mike Pence pardons them immediately afterwards.
Yeah, or if there's any whiff of impeachment, I see him.
I think if they
stepping
get
down.
him, they're gonna go the New York route.
Yeah.
They're gonna find a state because you can't pardon a state charge. So
states' rights. It's gonna be what bites them in the ass, guys.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. Again, I don't think they're gonna get anything.
Take our weed away again.
Yeah, we've been through. At least if that's what they're looking at, is the Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr. meeting with that.
We don't know what they're looking at, and they're looking at everything.
But that's what they're saying.
If they fucking catch them in like tax evasion or some shit, I think anything that could hurt Donald Trump Jr. or Jared Kushner or Eric Trump or Ivanka Trump or Melania Trump, Donald Trump has the type of personality where his family is so important to him that would be more important than the job.
Right.
And he wouldn't, like, that would be where he threw in the towel and was like I don't want
to do it.
I don't want my
See,
son-in-law
I don't
to
know.
go
I
to
think
jail.
he's much too much of a narcissist.
I don't.
I think he would
not
throw,
with his
he would throw
family.
family
Yeah, I don't
members
think
under
so.
the bus.
I don't think
He's
so.
not.
man.
I mean, historically, he hasn't even been around very much as a father. Like,
But
Yeah,
you've
but
seen
still.
it play out every time they get attacked. It's the
He goes
number.
and
He is
drops the
their
bomb.
number
Yeah.
one defense. He's
I
like
think
a
that's
one-man
almost like
army.
more him defending himself.
That's
because
why
he's
he broke
responsible
away.
for them.
Yeah, that's why he broke away from Bannon, was because Bannon and Kushner fucking hated each
Yeah,
other.
and
Right.
well, yeah, and I
And
think
he,
he'll
and
take
he
their
was
side. But
lobbying
I
at
think
Ivanka Trump. And
yeah, that's true.
And first, I don't understand why Democrats hate Ivanka Trump as much as they do, because they fucking hate her, and I don't get it.
She's
a
a character
Democrat.
on Sex and the City. That's why they hate her.
Yeah.
Because she's a New
Super
York
attractive
socialite that
Yeah.
that
Super
they
out of
don't
touch.
think think she's out
Same
of
reason
touch.
people despise Clinton. She doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
She
Right.
seems manufactured for something she's
Yeah.
trying to accomplish.
Plus, I don't know. I don't give a fuck how much you want to read into this or not. Like, America's sexist. So, like, there's a little bit of that at play. Like, you should not like Hillary
Democratic
Clinton.
women, I
Nobody
think-
should not like Hillary Clinton as much as she was not liked.
I don't know
Like,
about that.
But you, I just
disagree
like
on that
she had
one.
reasons to not like her, but to say that sexism played a part, I think is pretty obvious.
I think that
absolutely.
it's way overblown.
Yes,
I don't think
I
it-
agree with you
yeah.
there too.
I don't think it is.
I think that there
I
are.
think
I think the fact that we had a black president before we had a woman president is pretty telling that we're able to forgive racism before sexism
No, I
in
mean
this country.
that's always been the case. Women fought hard for African American rights, and then when they were hoping to get it in return, and African American males did not vote for the Suffrage Acts or anything like that. That's
or the
just-
Equal Rights Amendment, which
Yeah.
still hasn't been ratified. Yeah,
That's the way
I mean, I
that it
understand,
just
but that's what I'm
goes.
saying. I think sexism is more ingrained and actually affects more people because it affects what 51% of the population.
The
It
thing
affects
is,
half the
I
planet.
think women
the thing
are
is with
55.
And it's something we
sexism-
see in every
America.
culture in every country.
I think
Sexism is.
I think sexism. There's a blurrier line on what is sexist than there is on
Right.
like something like what is racist. Like you know what racism is because you can put a color to it.
Right.
Sexism.
I don't know.
Well, sexism is a little more biological too, because you get people who argue that women and men are different because they evolve different, and there's more.
well, they're different because they're physically different.
There's really no difference between races.
Like-
Everyone's but beneath skin color, everyone's the same. But there is a difference
Right.
biologically between male and female.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. So I think that's where you get a lot of more people who are more adamant about not being a feminist, which I think
Yeah.
is I think everyone
So I
should
think
be a
that,
feminist.
but that brings us to the
Meh.
biggest
I know we'll argue
question.
about that
Yeah.
forever.
That
Meh.
brings us to the biggest question of 2018. Then, is it cool to punch a chick that punches you?
Equality.
only if she's a Nazi, as we've seen.
What if she identifies as a male? You don't know that. Did you ask?
Well, just look at MMA. All of the transgender are running the female division because they identify as a woman and they're
I'm
allowed to
not
come in and
comfortable
they're
with you
dominating.
saying all the transgender.
I'm sorry, all the transgender fighters are dominating in the female, all the different weight classes because
I think it's
the
an interesting
men-
question. We'll have to ask as a nation eventually of if you identify as something, does that give you the right to use the facilities or you
Right.
know?
I
it's a big problem
identify
in
as
sports right now
rich.
because that's what
Yeah,
Give me
I have
some
no answers to
money.
it. I think it's a question we need to ask and have a national debate about
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure we will. But yeah. I think 2018. My predictions are going to be my solid prediction.
Blue wave.
No, no. I'm going to have a solid prediction that infrastructure is passed and it is bipartisan. I think that is going to happen. I think that something a little more shaky that I don't think will pass, but I'm not 100% on it, is entitlement reform. I know Paul Ryan's going for it. I don't think that's going to pass.
Yeah, I think you'll see way too much blowback from
I think so.
Democrats.
I think
now again,
infrastructure is
it'll
harder
be
to fight
the-
against because it's something
Democrats
they've been
have been
shouting
fighting
about.
for it.
Yeah,
It'll be the same. It'll be the same.
I also think that
players,
it'll really
too.
fuck Democrats up if they don't vote.
No,
for
but
it.
if an infrastructure bill passes, I don't know if it's going to help Republicans. I mean, it'll help them,
It'll help
but
both, I think.
they can't claim. Yeah, it'll help both parties.
Yeah, because I think it's gonna be hard for if it is done bipartisanly. I think it's hard for Democrats to be like, "See, we did it."
But I think that would be the next step in improving the economy. Is okay, the economy is going
Well,
good.
again,
Let's
construction
give
is-
construction crews
They're at a
lower,
13-year high. The field I'm in does a lot of construction. Those dudes are booming.
Yeah.
Like it is insane.
Isn't that kind of what got us out of the Great Depression in the 30s? Was giving money to people to dig highways and
Well, the war really
the
is the one that did
the
it, but-
FDR approach.
Yeah,
well,
it wasn't
but-
doing enough.
Yeah, but FDR did get people back working a little bit.
He did. So I think that again, I think infrastructure definitely. I think the entitlements maybe, and I think we're gonna see Mueller come out and say no indictment for Trump.
My prediction is we don't hear anything concretely.
I think by like
at least
September. I think by September, I think we're going to hear something.
I think we'll hear more, but I don't think it's
definitely
gonna get
not
wrapped
by
up.
September.
I think they're going to
think about that.
It'll be
a month and a half before the election.
I think that they're going to have to.
He'll pull a Comey 9 days before the election.
I really do. I think he's going to come out and say something along the lines. He's going to have enough pressure to say, if you haven't found any collusion, you need to say something. And I think he's going to say something to the effect of, we haven't found any collusion, but we are looking at other crimes.
I mean, but you look at Whitewater. That they couldn't pressure them to not investigate it for 4 years until they found something.
We'll
to
see,
get
but
them
we
on.
know there's going to be.
They just
first.
What's his name? Lindsey Graham and another senator just referred Steele, the guy who did the dossier, to the FBI and the Department of Justice to investigate him.
And I'll be interested. That's I don't know where that's going to come in, but I'm interested to see what happens with the Steele dossier.
Yeah,
that's kind of where this all started. And Reality Winner, who I know they're
she's
kind
gone,
of, like,
man. She's locked up.
Well, I know, but they're kind of denying her a trial in a weird way. Like it's kind of fucked up. What
Is
they're
it?
doing.
Well,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Basically, did treason.
Was that episode?
She also
1?
has a Pikachu blanket. I don't know why they felt the need to report that, but
was that episode 1 that we talked about Reality Winner?
No, we talked about
episode 2.
That didn't happen until like
that was
a couple
Chelsea
months.
Manning we talked about in the first.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
It didn't happen for like 2 or 3 months after Trump got elected.
Yeah, she was like, I'm a cute girl. They're not going to do
anything. They
anything.
were rumors about Russia, but she gave us concrete evidence.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Well, she gave us evidence that's what they believe.
Right.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, said every Trump supporter.
She said anyone who looked at the evidence and said, yeah, you can't come to that conclusion.
Said,
but that's
yeah,
fine.
just never mind the intelligence agencies.
Again, the servers, you have to have the actual servers.
Right.
If you don't have the actual servers.
Okay,
but
you can listen back to episode 1 through 15 for that argument.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I think that's a good place to end 2017 and jump
well,
into.
It's 2018, bro.
Right, I know. It's a good place to end the show. So, in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing our 1-year anniversary show. So I'm excited about that one. Kind of plan to look back at some of our favorite stories that we did cover. And we'll have, that's probably when I'll throw some extra fun alternative facts at you and shit like that. Remember to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at TDAP 2017. We're not going to update that every year, so just remember what year our inception was. And new episodes are out. New episodes are available weekly on iTunes and Google Play. Yeah, for real. Like when we don't have the flu for a month and shit happens.
That's weekly in quotation marks.
Right. That is.
It will
plan.
come out on a week. So.
It will come out some week. You will have new content. So anyway, like, share, subscribe to our shit. Make bumper stickers and put them on your car.
Send in criticism of Mitch through Twitter.
Make shirts for yourself that say
TDAP
and walk around in them.
I'm gonna create so many fake Twitter accounts and troll you.
Send us money. Do that.
Yeah, send money.
What? This is
Send
gonna be
money.
This is the new outro, right? Like I'm just gonna demand things. I need pizza next week, guys.
Smash that like button.
Smash it hard.
I think that's
all right. Cool. Here it is. Your alternative fact of the week. Thanks.
Judge Moore has also said that he doesn't think a Muslim member of Congress should be allowed to be in Congress. Why? Under what provision of the Constitution?
Because you have to swear on the Bible. When you are before, I had to do it. I'm an elected official 3 terms. I had to swear on a Bible. You have to swear on a Bible to be an elected official in the United States of America. He alleges that a Muslim cannot do that ethically, swearing on the Bible.
You don't actually have to swear on a Christian Bible. You can swear on anything, really. I don't know if you knew that. You can swear on a Jewish Bible.
Oh, no,
I
swore on the Bible. I've done it 3 times.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've picked a Bible, but the law is not that you have to swear on a Christian Bible. That is not the law. You don't know that? All right, Ted Crockett. With
I don't know. I know that Donald Trump did it when we made him president.
Because he's Christian and he picked it. That's what he wanted to. That's what he wanted to swear in on.